Okay, we're live. Welcome back. We are joining President Trump in the cabinet meeting, and we expect to hear a huge announcement. Of course, we've heard it already coming from different outlets about the newly negotiated peace deal between Israel and Hamas. Morning, greetings, Canary-kin. Thank you for being here. Canary-kin, shout out to you. So how do you think we're doing with our daily schedule? I hope you're enjoying the grind. Okay, so I am trying to make sure that I have stuff in order before the cabinet meeting starts. So yesterday we went live twice, and it was fun, but it was really hectic. So the second live stream we had was the coverage of Trump's roundtable on Antifa, and it was quite revealing. We literally had a total of over 500 views on yesterday's live stream. So that was fun, and there was tons of engagement. So today we're just going to join the cabinet meeting. We're going to see if the announcement about Gaza-Israel peace deal is made, and we're going to give our reaction to it. We're going to give our reaction to it while they're in the room having conversations, and maybe we might hear about the deployment of the National Guard to Chicago. We're currently waiting to get into the room. We're streaming through the Associated Press. We used their feed yesterday, and that was fun. So we should be able to get in there and listen in. President Trump has essentially been the most transparent president so far, letting us get into these conversations. And it's been really interesting just being there while stuff is happening in real time. Now, while we're waiting, I want us to kind of hear from different outlets about the Gaza peace deal while we're waiting, so that we can get some updates in. John Fetterman is chiming in, and let's hear what he has to say.
President Trump has a very strong commitment to Israel, and that's why I celebrate and support most of the things that they've done, including the Iranian nuclear sites. I believe I might have been the only Democrat that supported them through it. So now today, I think it's entirely appropriate to celebrate this. Thank God this terrible war is going to end, and these poor souls kept underground for over 2 years can come back home. So I think I don't understand why anyone's reaction would be other than that.
You know, Bill brought this up earlier in the program. There's a lot to come in the next 3 or 4 days, and one little thing going wrong can, upend all of this. And we've seen that in the past historically with this region. How do you feel about where we are in this moment right now? I know it's a joyous moment and we're all celebrating, but do you have a little bit of pause too?
No, I mean, I think it's incredibly comprehensive kind of a plan. And you also see now you have Hamas fully saying they're committed to this. And of course, Israel is now too. But what's also very important too, all of the Arab nations around, whether it's Egypt and Turkey and Qatar as well, have really pushed Hamas, saying this is going to be the best deal you're ever going to get. And this awful war needs to end. So I'm actually optimistic that we have a chance for enduring peace. Another part of it is what Israel has accomplished through this entire war. They have destroyed Hamas, they have destroyed Hezbollah, and also they stopped Iran for acquiring a nuclear weapon, and I fully supported that. Now Syria now is free. Now think what's accomplished here. So that's why we could have true peace in the region now.
Do you think the president deserves a Nobel Peace Prize?
Well, I mean, if this sticks, I think the whole point of having a Nobel Peace Prize is for ending wars and promoting peace. And I'm going to make a direct appeal to the president. I hope he chooses to provide the tomahawks to the Ukrainians too, and give them the tools that they need to push back against Russia. And if he brings the Ukrainian war to its end, I'll be the Democrat leading the committee for his Nobel Prize Peace for ending both of these terrible wars.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, so that's John Fetterman. It's astounding to see that there are people out there who would find something wrong with this peace deal because it's being brokered by President Trump. And that is classic TDS. There are people dying. There are people who have been in captivity for 2 years. And it's about time that this madness ends. Now, in a rare moment of sanity on CNN, we have this come out of CNN. Abby Phillips said this last night.
This was not doable when President Biden was in office.
I think the biggest problem that the President Biden had is there was no pressure from Qatar, from Turkey, from Egypt. They were actually facilitating in many ways what was going on. And that is really ultimately how it all came together.
So, I mean, but I think by saying that, it's sort of an acknowledgement Trump has changed that dynamic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I think
absolutely.
that.
I mean, he's clearly.
I don't know how he
changed.
And I think there's a lot that remains to learn about what prompted that change. But I do agree, yes, somehow, some way that changed.
We will tell you how that changed. Now, the fights that Democrats have been engaging with Trump on tariffs has basically been the key thing. Tariffs, trade with the Middle East has been a huge factor in bringing them to the table. Okay, not saber rattling and complaining and threatening, just tariffs. Okay, when you tell someone, if you don't work with me to do this, then I'll take my business elsewhere. All right. People want to eat, and the United States is the biggest consumer of product in the world. So if you want to do business, then you have to say yes to them. All right. So before I play this video from MSNBC or TDSBC, like I like to call them, please consider liking and sharing the video. Like and share the video, please. It helps out a whole lot. I appreciate it a whole lot. And please let me know in the comment section where you're watching from. We want to get your thoughts in the comment while the videos are playing, while the cabinet meeting is going on. Let's engage and have a conversation. Let me know your thoughts about what's going on and some of the things. We don't know what President Trump is going to say. And that's one of the exciting things. We don't know what he's going to say. So let's keep our eyes out on the proceedings. Now, TDSBC had this to say about the peace deal.
The deal that President Trump is announcing played a key part in negotiating is a significant change. This war was blocked for 2 years. President Biden, who preceded him, was unable to find a way to stop it. President Trump found that way by being tough on both sides, and he'll take a victory lap for sure over the next few days. But it's deserved. There's no way that I can see that this would have been done without Trump's pressure in the final hours.
Yeah. So again, I would say, and this is my opinion. I would say that this all was made possible because of tariffs. People might hate the fact that he's using the United States economic power to pressure people into coming to the table, but I think that has played a huge role, because when he did his Middle East tour, it showed that the people in the Middle East were willing to talk to somebody who understood how things worked. And the entire conversation around trade, all the trade deals he was able to wrap up during that tour, were a lead up to having this key conversation about peace in the Middle East. That is what I think. Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comment section. Now, I'm keeping track on the monitor here. So as soon as we get into the room, we will switch over to the cabinet meeting. Now, what do you think President Trump is going to announce apart from the peace deal? I need to know in the comment section. Let's know what you think. Is he going to talk about Chicago? Is he going to talk about, about Portland? Is he going to talk about Antifa? We did a live stream yesterday. And like I said, we had over 500 views on the live stream while the live stream was going on. And there was a conversation around designating Antifa as an international terrorist organization. Do you agree with that statement about Antifa being designated an international terror organization? For people out there who might think that this is overkill, Antifa is I think it's potentially a multi-billion-dollar entity, and it's currently operating in multiple countries. It's operating in Europe, it's operating in Asia, and most in the United States and in North America. So it is an organization that has been put together to attack conservatives globally and to push a progressive, what people call a progressive, but I think is regressive, a progressive agenda. All right. Yeah, please don't forget to like the video. Please share the video. I'm going to keep asking for this, please. It helps out. It helps out a whole lot. We're going to jump into the stream. Okay, well, we are 1 minute out. We are 1 minute out. So we're just going to leave this on the screen for now because we're about to step into the proceedings. All right. So let me make sure that I can see your chat in real time. There's a poll up there, so please consider responding to the poll. Consider responding to the poll. Do you support the peace deal? Now that sounds like a stupid question, but to be honest, in the many conversations I've been having on my channel, it's weird how people react whenever Trump is involved in something. So I just want to know: do you support the peace deal? And in the chat, let me know if you think this peace deal will hold. I was listening to a show. I was listening to Tim Cast, and there's a lot of skepticism about whether this peace deal will actually happen. There are people who think that Israel is going to scuttle the peace deal. They believe that Israel is going to scuttle the peace deal. They think that they are not interested in settling with Gaza. So let's know in the comment section if you believe that this peace deal is going to eventually be consummated with the signing of a treaty, with giving the citizens of Gaza the breathing room they need to become a state. Do you think that? Now, I have some thoughts about it, because when you look at the state of the Middle East over the last 80 years, it's almost like there's always one conflict or the other being stirred up around the statehood of Israel. Do you think this is going to be a long-lasting peace? I remember the war that took place, I think it was in 2006. And it looked like that was going to be the last war we would see between Israel. I think it was Israel and Hezbollah. It was massive. CNN covered it. And then when the peace deal was reached and the area that is Gaza was handed over to the Palestinians, the world said, okay, well, we've given them their own plot. They will leave Israel alone. And that all but lasted for just a few months. And then Hamas resumed shelling, firing rockets into Israel. Do you think that this peace deal will last? Okay, so just let me know in the chat. All right. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Okay, I just want to ask you to do us a favor. Well, before we jump in, let me do an ad read. Okay, a quick ad read. Did I close that? Oh, there it is. A quick ad read. So, I designed this mug for you. This mug is a mug that has the imprint, I connect to heaven's economy. The reason why people freak out about world affairs and policies, especially things like tariffs, is because of the economy. How will I eat? How will I be able to provide for my loved ones? And many times it's easy to get swayed simply because you feel like your income is threatened. Even this morning, I was sitting here thinking to myself, what's going to happen with my income, with my revenue? And there's always this anxiety that comes up when you think about that. And when you're looking at a cabinet meeting that could essentially mean the benefit or the lack thereof towards your finances, it can create anxiety. The people out there who hate Trump and who are protesting and are speaking out against him many times are simply anxious about their economy. But I think one thing we should all do is learn how to depend on the Lord, on God, to provide our needs. Jesus said in Matthew 6 verse 11, when he was teaching what we call the Lord's Prayer, he said, "Give us this day our daily bread." And I was praying that last week, and I got this this word in my heart. I need to connect to heaven's economy. So I printed that out. It's right here on my wall in black and white. But I decided to give you a travel mug with it printed on. So to support the channel, you could consider buying that for yourself to keep that in mind if you want. I just want to put that out there before we jump into the stream. So that's the only ad read. I don't have any sponsors but myself. So think about that. The link is in the description of the video. It's in the description of the video. So you can click on it and take a look at the mug. See if it's something that you'd want. It'd be great to keep that in front of your eyes, to keep you at peace. Because whenever I look at that and I pray that, it makes me feel at peace. So I'm not anxious and I'm not pulling out my hair wondering what the future will bring. It's easy to feel overwhelmed with everything you're seeing in the world. So people are losing their jobs everywhere. There's anxiety. There's questions about where the world is going. We saw the violence last month with the murder of Charlie Kirk. There's things happening, especially if you're conservative. You're thinking to yourself, where is the world going? How is it that the world suddenly is against people who think and believe like I do, and they're open about it? All right. So heaven's economy isn't just about finances. It's about God's way of doing things, God's way of protecting us, God's way of keeping us safe. So personally, I work hard in my mind and in my heart to stay in that place, in that zone of thinking about how God protects and keeps us. All right. So I hope this isn't foreign to you, and I definitely hope it's not offensive to you that you're joining a live streamer about Trump's cabinet meeting, and you're hearing someone talk about Matthew 6:11. Okay. This is who I am. I'm a person of faith. I wear it on my sleeve, and it dictates my worldview and how I treat people and how I think about politics and life. All right, so we're still waiting on the cabinet to kick off. So we're going to go in and look at let's just look at a few more things going on. There are conversations around whether Donald Trump will be nominated for the Peace Prize. All right, they are thinking that Trump will be nominated for the Peace Prize. There is an assumption that as soon as Trump is nominated, the Nobel committee will suddenly realize that the Nobel Peace Prize is obsolete because of the backlash that will ensue. Look, TDS is a real thing. All right, TDS is a real thing. There are people who will literally say that the Nobel Peace Prize has been corrupted simply because it was awarded to Donald Trump. All right. So it's important for us to see this coming. I'm trying to see if there's anything of note to put up here. I was expecting that the cabinet meeting would kick off as soon as it was 11 o'clock or 12 p.m. ADT my time. But it seems like there is a delay. So we will be waiting on them to get started. So now this is what's going on in the streets of Gaza. Okay, so in the streets of Gaza, the announcement reached them that a peace deal had been reached, and here's Fox News report on that. Look, I believe that there are good people living in Gaza. There are good people there who just want to live their lives, who don't want to fight anyone. They want peace. All right. But the political ideology of Hamas drives the conflict. All right. Like, these are people who have spent the last 2 years being shelled, having bombs falling on them, and having loved ones killed. All right. It is not good to live that way. I haven't lived in a war zone. My dad told me about his experience during the Nigerian Civil War. It's a horrible existence. Believe me, it's a horrible existence. People who scream, for example, one example is people who scream civil war about the disagreements and the conflict of ideas happening in the United States. Don't know what they're wishing for. They don't. It's horrible to have people fight simply and end the lives of those around them, people who they used to call their neighbors, all right? Do that simply because they have differing ideas. They have differing ideas, or because they just disagree on religion, they disagree on race, all right? It's a horrible existence. And war is never the answer. It isn't. But for a lot of people, it is. So personally, I am a pacifist. I am. But I do know how the world works. There are people who only understand force. That's the only way to get them out. So it's not surprising that they are rejoicing. Now, on a side note, all right, there's a report on the TPUSA. Now, Charlie Kirk had a tour that he had planned out before his assassination. And there were questions about whether the tour was going to continue, seeing that people had decided that the best way to express their disagreement with someone with free speech is to act out in violence against them. We're waiting for the Trump cabinet meeting to begin. We're still waiting. We're tracking the feed. We're just taking up other stories while we're waiting. So TPUSA is drawing a huge crowd. And here's the report from Fox News.
It started at 6:30 p.m., so they started lining up at 8. They filled every single seat. 3,300 seats filled up very quickly. Thousands of people were there.
Vivek Ramaswamy's got a groundswell of young supporters when he was running for president. Now he's running for governor, and he was asked to speak at this event. Listen.
He used to say again and again that the greatest weapon against lies is not censorship, it is truth spoken with courage. That was Charlie's Valley Forge. And even when the bullets came at him, he was still fighting with words, not weapons. That is the beauty of his legacy.
He will be sorely missed, but the work of Turning Point USA continues and has been amplified by his passing.
That's the governor there. And I think it's going to be a pressure, I guess, to keep this momentum going, to keep the group strong. But the crowds are off the charts.
One of the things I've been excited to see is the young people that have been rising, because that's really who is going to be the mantle. Who is going to be, I don't think it's just going to be one person, but I think it's going to be multiple young people that rise up, that inspire the next generation. You talked with some young people earlier today, and this is what they had to say.
You know, while the left may have killed one Charlie Kirk, what they did not expect, what they did not anticipate is that they would create 1,000 and millions of more all across the country. You know.
Yeah. So this is okay. I'm going to tell you something that I discovered, I think last week. I'm just going to let this play out, but I'm going to let you know something I discovered last week. I hope I can get that in before the cabinet meeting starts.
You have young people now who are not just rising up politically, they're rising up spiritually and becoming the men that the Bible commands us, calls us to be. People are fired up about this moment in America to take back our country, to do what is right, to right the direction of this ship. And I got to say that this is exactly what Charlie would have wanted. He would want all of us to embody the values and the fervor and the passion and love for this country that he did.
It doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, the color of your skin. You can stand up and you can speak truth to power. He told me that at the age of 14. He was 25 years old at the time, and he kind of exemplified everything I wanted to be. I wanted to be involved. I wanted to be engaged. I wanted to fight for truth, spread truth, and save America. And he told me it didn't matter that I was 14. I could do just that.
Can I just say something about these young people, these young conservatives? You don't hear hate. You hear debate. You hear inspiration. You don't hear them shouting people down. They just want to share with their ideas for America with other young people and the world. And what a contrast.
They love Vivek Ramaswamy. They gave him a standing ovation when he came out. They gave him a standing ovation when he stopped talking. Here's a little glimpse of his version of what Charlie's life meant to the country and the impact it had on the last election.
For years, college students with conservative views, like many of you, were taught to shut up, sit down, and keep their views to themselves. But thanks to one man, we reached a new dawn in this country. Young conservatives, like many of you, started to feel free to speak in the open again as proud Americans. You showed up at the ballot box last November in unprecedented droves to re-elect Donald Trump to his second term as U.S. president. You all did that.
So, yeah, he's well received. He's got a lot of youth support.
Yeah, he does. 50 students lined up to ask Vivek questions because, you know, they do the debate portion at the end like Charlie used to do. And that lasted for an hour.
That's risky when you do the debate portion. It can either make you or break you. Don't just go into these universities if you haven't did the prep work, understand what your position, think about the opposing viewpoint. That's one thing Charlie did do. He thought about the opposing viewpoint so you can be ready.
He studied. He studied politics. He studied history. He studied the Bible so that he would be ready to have an answer.
We'll see. I mean, we'll see if the impact is even on this special elections in New Jersey as well as Virginia. We'll see if it can carry out there. Montana is a very red state, even the college kids.
Yep. Looked like they were praying there, too. Charlie brought that to the table as well, not just politics, but spirituality.
Yeah. So let me say this. I found that the movement isn't just happening among young people. I was speaking with someone who's he's a couple of years older than I am. And we were talking. We went out for coffee. And we were talking. And he said to me that after Charlie's assassination, he began to consider his life and whether he was actually living up to the potential of what God had called him to do. And by the end of our conversation, he decided that he was going to start taking steps to do something that has been on his heart for a long time, and which was to start prison ministry. And this is something that we had talked about off and on over a couple of years. And during our conversation, I think it was last week, he said, I'm taking the step to go out and start student ministry. And I told him, look, if you need me to come and support you, I will. And it's not just young people who are being affected by the assassination of Charlie Kirk. It's also older people who have looked at their lives and have said to themselves, I need to do something too. I need to step out there too and be a voice. And I would like to encourage you too, to like, no matter how old you are, young, old, look, you still have time to make an impact, to do something that God may have put in your heart to do. This isn't just about young people deciding that they want to make their voice heard. And look, let me tell you something I learned again years ago. Don't worry, I'm still tracking the Oval Office, or I'm tracking it on the monitor here. So as soon as they start the cabinet meeting, we will just jump into it and connect. So years ago, I heard someone say this. They said, I hope I haven't lost my train of thought. They said the thing that upsets you, the thing that angers you, is most likely the thing God has called you to change. The thing that upsets you, the thing that angers you, is most likely the thing that God has called you to change. And that's very important. If you're watching the news and you're upset at the lies that you hear being spread in the news, it's very likely that you are called to do something about it. Get a podcast open. Start a YouTube channel where you talk about it. Write a blog where you take apart the stories and then bring out the truth. There's something about that thing that upsets you, the thing that angers you, the thing that causes you pain might be your calling. So it's very important that I put this out there. There are people who are watching. Like last night, I did encourage the people who were online for the second part of the live stream in the evening. I did encourage them to start YouTube channels. And if you're listening to me right now and you're like, well, I enjoy listening to you, but I think that if all of this is making you feel a certain kind of way, if the lies you're seeing in the news, or if certain things that are going on in the world make you feel very uncomfortable, and every time you think about it, it brings you a lot of pain, I would consider, if I were you, I would consider looking into whether that is something God wants you to do something about. And when I say do something about, bring wisdom, bring truth, bring light, bring hope in that situation. We're still waiting for the cabinet meeting to kick off. We're tracking it. There's a bit of a delay at the White House, but as soon as they cut to the cabinet meeting, we will be there. We are still outside watching, but we will jump in as soon as something changes. So I guarantee you that we are on top of it. We are on top of it. So one of the reasons, and I just want to, just bring this up. One of the reasons why I do what I do, so that you can kind of feel out for yourself if there's something in your heart that you believe you're being directed to do. One of the reasons why I started doing news and politics, originally, the name of this channel was Design Course Academy. I just want to give you the origin story of this whole thing. The name of this channel and my podcast was Design Course Academy, because I ran a web design company back in Nigeria, and I did do a lot of seminars, and I did public speaking where I encouraged young people to get into technology. And I thought to myself, it would be more productive for me to be out there teaching young people and encouraging them to do this. And I started the podcast and the YouTube channel to do that. By the time we rolled into the 2021 cycle and we began to see the policies that were being so destructive to the world, because I wasn't living in North America at the time, I lived in Nigeria, but I was watching and I could see where the world was going, because the world takes its cue from the United States. I have comments in my comment section, and yesterday I had one in the chat. Hey, mind what's going on in Africa. My dear, whatever goes on in North America spills over into Africa. So I would rather go up to the source and head it off there than sit back and wait for it to land on Africa's face. So I began to, think and discuss things that were going on in North America. And then the year after that, we relocated to North America. I'm here as an immigrant, all right? But my thought is, let's see what's going on in the political sphere and let me speak to where this thing is going. And we've lived in a third world country. I've lived in a third world country for over 40 years. And when I see people who try to whitewash black culture in Africa, I'm like, no. You did not live in Africa. You don't know what it is like living in that culture. So let me explain to you. You're trying to bring in a policy that is destructive. I see it and I'm like, hey, this is destructive. Here's why. And that's basically the reason why I began to do this, because I'm looking at the news stories. I can see the lies. I can see the gaslighting. In Africa, we've been gaslit. Okay. Nigeria has been gaslit for 70 years. They've been gaslit to believe a lie. And I'm seeing it happening in North America. And I'm like, okay, I need to call this out and say this isn't true. And so that's why I do what I do. I also do it because I want my kids to see how to handle the world. It is difficult to navigate the world as an adult. As kids, you don't know what's going on. You have food and shelter. All that is taken care of. But as an adult, when they eventually grow up, they need to know how to navigate the world, because when you have news outlets feeding you lies, you need to know how to discern the truth. And so I began to lean towards news and politics. That's why I did it. That is my origin story. So I didn't start out wanting to be controversial, wanting to talk about American news or North American news and politics. I didn't. I made all of my observations had been made over decades of life experience. But my focus at the time was, I want to teach young people how to, get into technology. As a father of 3, I now decided, okay, I need to do this for my kids, because this has gone beyond simply wanting to build a business, training young people how to get into tech. Eventually, this is going to wind up in my household. My kids are going to be told that there are 500 genders. My kids are going to be told that that up is down and down is up. My kids are going to be told that believing in Jesus is evil. What are they supposed to believe? So this is basically what I'm trying to build here. The channel is young, 10,800 plus subscribers, and then a backup channel that's also growing. So there's a lot going on, but I'm telling you my story. For you, what is your story? Is there something that you're fighting, that you're pushing back against? Okay, you need to think about it. Is there something that God is putting on your heart to do? We're going to be watching the cabinet meeting. And we're going to watch President Trump. President Trump started decades ago to warn America. The video that put my main channel on the map was a video where at 35 years old, Donald Trump was being interviewed by Ronna Barrett. That was the video that put my main channel on the map. Not on the map, but it monetized my channel and got over 1.7 million views. And at 35 years old, he was already speaking forward the things that he is doing today. That was a fascinating thing for me. And I put out that video And it got so much traction, and people saw it, and it was polarizing. People who hated Trump commented, those who loved Trump commented. But the point was, at 35, he had already begun to speak the things that we're seeing him do today. We're going to be watching him in the Oval Office, during the cabinet meeting. The things he is pushing today are the things that he had been discussing when he was 35 years old. Many of us are carrying things in our souls that God has put in our souls for the world. We have to be bold and courageous enough to take those things and present them to the world. That's all I'm saying. I just want to be that catalyst to help you begin to think about those things while we discuss the news and politics. The purpose of the live stream is to have an interactive opportunity to go through these stories, talk in the chat. The chat this morning is silent as usual. Okay, so guys, I'm also thinking that I will have to either live stream twice a day or make my live streams an evening live stream. This is something I'm putting out there. I'm putting it out there because I'm considering it. Why am I considering it? Because I tend to, from yesterday's experience, and maybe I'll just test it. From yesterday's experience, we had a lot of engagement, a lot of activity during the live stream, which is why I'm doing the live stream. I'm not doing the live stream to put up my pretty face, out there. I'm doing the live stream to talk to you, to engage with you, and have you talk back, and we can exchange ideas in the chat. So while I'm presenting the stories, I look at the chat, we talk about it, and then we just keep it moving. Now, I don't know why this is taking so long, but while we're waiting, let's listen. Okay, so Antifa. Yesterday, we had a bunch of, I'm going to see if I can find one or two statements by people who were at the roundtable meeting with President Trump yesterday. I'm going to see if I can find a couple of them. And then we're going to play, we're going to play what CNN said. There was a comment by one of us yesterday who said that CNN, that he guarantees that CNN or one of the mainstream media outlets was going to label the roundtable meeting a Nazi roundtable meeting. And I told him, definitely that's going to happen. We're going to listen to what CNN said about that roundtable meeting in a bit. But I want to play this clip. This is Posobiec, Jack Posobiec. I blanked on his first name. This is Jack Posobiec. Jack Posobiec is someone who's a close friend of Charlie Kirk, and he was at the roundtable. This is a clip from the roundtable, and this is what he said during the roundtable meeting.
And Mr. President, I think the situation is getting worse. When you look at people like Luigi Maggioni in his 20s, Thomas Matthew Crooks, of course, who took a shot at you, sir, the ICE shooter in Dallas, and now this Tyler Robinson, we're starting to see a pattern of more and more murderous violence. And this same violence is not just random. It is targeted assassinations, which are getting worse. And every single one of us in this room that goes out there, and obviously you as well, sir, and all the staff, we are now under that threat every single day. And working there at Turning Point USA, and I've spent just about the last month out there in Phoenix with Erica, with the family, with the team. And I will tell you this, Mr. President, even though going through something like that, which is an absolute nightmare, and people say, what was it like to speak in front of all those people? It was horrible. Every second of it was horrible. But we're not going to quit. And Turning Point USA is continuing the tour that Charlie was on. We had 6,000 people when we went back to Utah. We had 5,000 people last night in Montana, if you can believe that. We are continuing to organize on campus. We are getting more and more people coming out in the face of this threat, knowing what happened to Charlie. But Mr. President, we need to do something about this, because I fear that the next one who could be killed could be sitting at this table right now.
And that is an ominous statement. It's an ominous statement. And I think there's merit to his claims because we haven't seen the rhetoric get toned down from the left. We haven't seen that happen. We're still seeing statements saying that Charlie Kirk's legacy should be relegated to the dustbin of history. That's credited to Ilhan Omar. We are seeing statements about how he's a racist. There's an on the street interview that Nick Shirley did, and the people he was talking to were saying F Charlie Kirk, and right now Charlie Kirk's name has become a verb in the lips of these far leftists. Okay, it's now a verb. So whenever they see someone who is a conservative on the street, they walk up to him and say, "Do you want to get Charlie Kirked?" So it is problematic to hear that, and it's difficult to believe that this is something that is widely accepted on the left. Now, here's CNN's statement. In all their wisdom, here's what they decided to say concerning the roundtable meeting yesterday. So let's hear how they I think this is supposed to be their coverage. This says, this is 16 hours ago. Unbelievable. CNN's Erin Burnett just parroted Antifa propaganda on air while managing to take swipes at right-wing extremists, quote unquote. All right. So this is in response to President Trump's statement about them being designated a global terror threat. So let's listen.
And Trump's Secretary of Homeland Security actually took that further.
This network of Antifa is just as sophisticated as MS-13, as TDA, as ISIS, as Hezbollah, as Hamas, as all of them. They are just as dangerous.
That's pretty incredible, right? Hamas has just been engaged in a 2-year war that we just announced the first stage of a peace plan to a few moments ago. And ISIS? These are incredible things to say. And obviously, I'm not going to sit here and defend anybody who considers themselves part of an Antifa movement, such that it is. But such that it is the operative part of that sentence. Antifa is far from a major sophisticated terror organization.
All right, so that's how it starts. That's how it starts. You have people who water down the implications of what's going on with Antifa. And then when it's like ISIS, the first time people heard of ISIS, they were like, who's ISIS? Because everyone's focus was on Al-Qaeda. They felt that ISIS was this gang that no one should pay attention to until it wasn't. The same thing happened in Nigeria. Today we hear about insurgency in northern Nigeria. I have to bring my African experience. For those of you who will watch this and you're like, why is he talking about the United States? It's none of your business. This is what happened in Nigeria with Boko Haram. Boko Haram was assumed to be an ideology. Back in 2009, there was an individual in Nigeria who was pushing the ideology Boko Haram, no Western influence. That is the meaning of Boko Haram. That anything that is Western is haram. It is wrong. It is bad. That's what it means. And he was pushing it. At the time, the sitting president had him arrested, and somehow his life was ended while in custody. And that was the excuse that the people who believed or were pushing that ideology had to begin to escalate violence. Fast forward over 10 years later, there's a full-blown insurgency where these people are going toe-to-toe with the Nigerian military at the northern parts of the country. It always starts with someone snickering and asking, isn't this far-fetched? Calling Antifa, as dangerous as ISIS? Come on. That's what they said about ISIS when they looked at ISIS and compared it to Al-Qaeda. They were like, who's ISIS? Who? And today, ISIS is all people can talk about. So CNN here is doing exactly what people do when something dangerous is rearing its ugly head. People are warning about it, and she's reading her teleprompter and acting out the surprise or the snarkiness of what are they talking about? Antifa, dangerous. Give us a break. Trump and his conspiracy theories.
Like Hezbollah, Hamas, or ISIS. In fact, it's not even like far-right groups like the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers.
So now it's all about comparing Antifa and saying that the Proud Boys and whoever else she called are a problem. Well, the Proud Boys aren't in Portland giving people black eyes. The Proud Boys aren't in Portland threatening to end the lives of conservative journalists who are trying to cover the incident at the ICE facility in Portland. They are not. Antifa is. The Proud Boys aren't in California egging on protests against ICE, throwing rocks at ICE vehicles as they travel through California. They're not the ones doing it. Antifa is. The Proud Boys aren't they aren't the ones who ambushed ICE officers and fired on ICE facilities over the last couple of months. Antifa or Antifa-inspired individuals are the ones doing this. So when CNN gets really dismissive about the danger that Antifa is, it's a callback for me. Just like I said, I've seen this movie before. I've seen it play out before, and I can always call back to, here's what happened here, and here's what I think is going to happen after this if this isn't taken seriously. I'm glad that the Trump administration is taking this seriously. But what I am concerned about is when you have public sentiment engineered by CNN to be sympathetic to Antifa, which they originally claimed was not an organization. They said it was an ideology. Now they are claiming that, why are you trying to designate Antifa? It's, and they're trying to compare it to the Proud Boys. I thought you said it was an ideology. Why don't you stick to the talking point that this is an ideology? They can't honestly stay on topic. They can't. They have to continue to flip-flop. Why? Because they need to muddy the water. They need to skew the sentiment of the general public towards disagreeing with anything that Donald Trump says, disagreeing with anything that anyone in his cabinet says or does. That is the playbook. All right. They don't care about the safety of Americans. They only care about the bottom line of their agenda, the agenda that they are pushing. Now, the individuals at CNN may not be horrible people. They may not be. They may just be taking a paycheck and reading out a teleprompter. But in the end, the problem still persists that an alarm needs to be raised about organizations like Antifa and the organizations that fund them and that back them with money. The alarm needs to be raised. However, if you have CNN, TDSBC running interference for these organizations and claiming that the Trump administration is overstepping and should not be designating them as terror organizations, ladies and gentlemen, we have a problem. All right, we have a problem then because the people out there are simply muddying the waters. All right, so please give me a moment. I'm tracking the report. I'm tracking the report on Associated Press. I just don't want to be that guy who's looking at the wrong channel. All right, so I'm trying to see if I can look at other channels and see if we are. This was okay. Yeah, so sorry about that. All right. So I think all right, so the White House YouTube channel isn't transmitting. There's nothing showing up there. So we're just going to keep tracking the Associated Press. We are watching the Associated Press. So let's finish up this story.
Which have had national leaders, unlike Antifa. There is no organized hierarchy to the group. And according to the Center for Strategic and International Studies, compared to right-wing extremists, Antifa-linked violence is rare and limited.
Yeah, there's no organizational structure, but they get donations, and they have. I played a video yesterday about the founder, the guy who founded the Portland arm of Antifa. So CNN yet again lying to their audience and doing it smugly. Like, if you don't believe us, you're not educated, you're stupid, you're a hick. That's the signal that they're sending out there to bully you into believing that what they're saying is true. We all see that there is a clear organization to Antifa. People don't just magically wear black outfits with face masks from different parts of the state or even different parts of the United States, show up at a single location and act in a coordinated manner. You don't see them carrying the same designed signboards. It's almost like branding. They have these signboards ready and waiting. It's not, you can't see all that and not know that this is organized. And when CNN, spreads this kind of misinformation, they're the ones who keep saying that, that the private independent journalists are the ones spreading misinformation, but they are like a channel of misinformation if they say things like this on air. And how many things have you heard CNN say and it turned out that they were actually wrong? How many things have you heard them say and it turned out that they were actually wrong? Don't worry, we're keeping an eye on the feed for the cabinet meeting. Now, something obviously is happening. All right, something is happening. We've been waiting for 44 minutes. Something is happening. And I'm looking forward to figuring out what happened, what's kept them from opening up the cabinet for this airing, because they, as you can see, it is set for, I hope you can see the time. Yeah, the timestamp. It's set for 11 a.m. Eastern, which is 12 p.m. ADT, my time. And we're still not on air. We're 44 minutes in, 45 minutes in now, and nothing is up. It means that something is going on. All right. So you guys, please hang in there. Stay tuned. I think we might be rewarded with something really interesting in the end. All right. Now, I've said a bunch of stuff. I know that some of you might be listening. You're at work. You can't exactly engage. I get it. But if you can, leave a chat and let me know what you think about the stuff that I've said so far about Antifa, about the statements on the peace deal with Hamas, the people who have made statements in the past about the peace deal not being a valid one because Trump is involved. A few things that I've said that may have caught your attention, please leave a comment in the chat. Let's have a conversation about it. We're here to kind of watch the cabinet meeting, and while we're waiting on that, all right, let's do a vote. Should we rewatch? If you didn't make it if you weren't here for the roundtable meeting on Antifa yesterday, is it okay if we rewatch that so that you can listen to the whole flow of conversation until we cut into the cabinet meeting? All right. You can drop a yes if you would like us to go ahead and do that, or a no if you think we should just keep talking. you like the sound of my voice and you want me to keep going on an endless monologue, it's easier to just pick up that feed and then dive into what happened yesterday. Like I said, I guess most of you are at work. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and do it. All right. I released a video last night. I hope you guys were able to watch that video. I sort of had fun watching that, doing that video. All right. So I'm going to play that feed. I'm going to play the feed. Everyone is at work, so I'm going to play that feed, and then once we have a signal from the cabinet meeting, we will skip over to it. Yeah, it turns out that yesterday my microphone wasn't working great for both live streams. I only found out after the second live stream, and I was so peeved about it because they were both good live streams.
Peace for the Middle East. It's a beautiful phrase, and we hope it's going to come true, but it's very close, and they're doing very well. We have a great team over there, great negotiators, and there are unfortunately great negotiators on the other side also. But it's something I think that will happen, got a good chance of happening. I may go there sometime toward the end of the week, maybe on Sunday, actually. And we'll see, but there's a very good chance negotiations are going along very well. We're dealing with Hamas and many of the countries. As you know, we have all of the Muslim countries are included. All of the Arab countries are included. Very rich countries and some that are not so rich, but just about everybody's included. It's never happened before. Nothing like that's happened before. And our final negotiation, as you know, is with Hamas. And it seems to be going well, so we'll let you know. If that's the case, we'll be leaving probably on Sunday, maybe Saturday, maybe a little later than Saturday evening, but that seems to be our schedule. It should be clear to all Americans that we have a very serious left-wing terror threat in our country. Radicals associated with the domestic terror group Antifa that you've heard a lot about lately, and I've heard a lot about them for 10 years. And other far-left extremists have been carrying out a campaign of violence against ICE agents and other officials charged with enforcing federal law. In Chicago, anarchists have surveilled at least 4 local ICE facilities and posted diagrams of the buildings online, meaning nothing but bad, accompanied by photos of specific ICE agents that they're targeting, one in particular who's a top person and a great patriot. In July, approximately a dozen Antifa-aligned militants stormed the ICE facility in Texas and then lured officers out of the building before firing dozens of rounds at police. They were crazy, frankly, shooting one Texas officer in the neck. And in Portland, Oregon, Antifa thugs have repeatedly attacked our officers and laid siege to federal property in an attempt to violently stop the execution of federal law. Everything we're doing is very lawful. What they're doing is not lawful. And what the governor and the mayor of, as an example, you could say of Portland, and you can say certainly of Chicago, it's not lawful what they're doing. They have to be very careful. In addition, 2 weeks ago, a radical left terrorist in Dallas conducted a sniper attack on a local ICE facility, killing 2 people and leaving behind a note that read, "Hopefully this will give ICE agents some real terror." That's bad.
Yeah.
This attack came the very same month that Charlie Kirk was assassinated by a far-left extremist who inscribed the words, "Hey, fascist, catch," meaning catch the bullet, onto the bullet shelf itself. The epidemic of left-wing violence and Antifa-inspired terror has been escalating for nearly a decade. At universities, Antifa has organized riotous mobs to attack campus speakers. I see it all the time. And these are agitators, anarchists, and they're paid. And you'll find that out. You'll be finding it out very soon. You should see what we have on these people. These are bad people. These are people that want to destroy our country. We're not going to let it happen. They've used armed gangs to assault local police in cities nationwide, and they've attacked journalists reporting on their crimes. So the journalists that report on their crimes, don't worry, you're very safe. I hope that's not going to turn you around, but they have been very threatening to people, but we're going to be very threatening to them, far more threatening to them than they ever were with us, and that includes the people that fund them. Probably some of the people I know, some of the people I dine with, but if they do, they're in deep trouble. So we're going to be looking very strongly at the people that are funding these operations. When you see the signs, and they're all made out of a beautiful paper, beautiful, nice, stiff, very expensive paper with beautiful wood handles, all the same color. They come from very expensive printing machines. These are not people that write out their signs. And
CNN says that there's no proof that this is an organized group. We just heard CNN try to discount the fact that this is an organized group of terrorists being funded, okay, by look, these are funded by billionaires. And Trump is going to hint at that.
A basement that believe in something. These are paid anarchists. At least 3 of these courageous journalists have personally been victims of Antifa attacks. Andy Ngo has been repeatedly beaten by Antifa thugs for his work in Andy is a very serious person, too, I have to tell you. I've been watching him for a long time. Is Andy here? That's what I thought. Hello, Andy. I thought that was you. You're looking better than you do out on the streets. You look much better. It's nice to have you. You feel a little safer here, I think, maybe. Well, not that safe, because you have them. You have to worry about them. But thank you very much. Andy Ngo has been repeatedly beaten by Antifa, and including one assault that left him with a brain hemorrhage. Only days ago, Nick Sortor was assaulted in Portland by a flag-burning mob, and we've made it 1-year penalty for inciting riots. We took the freedom of speech away because that's been through the courts, and the court said you have freedom of speech. But what has happened is when they burn a flag, it agitates and irritates crowds. They've never seen anything like it on both sides, and you end up with riots. So we're going on that basis. We're looking at it not from the freedom of speech, which I always felt strongly about, but never passed the courts. This is what they do, is they incite. When you burn an American flag, you incite tremendous violence. We have many examples of it, many examples of it, and it's actually down on tape, and you see things happen that just don't happen unless it's the flag that's burning. Very recently, Katie Davis Court was hit in the face with a flagpole in Portland by an Antifa radical, leaving her with a very blackened eye. So, Katie, thank you very much. And I'd like to also say that I watched Nick. Where's Nick? Is Nick here? Right here. Nick. Hi, Nick. That was a rough time you went through. I hope you got my little note. I wrote you a note.
Yeah, I really appreciated that. It helped a lot because it was a difficult situation. It was very stressful, and your note helped a lot. I truly appreciate it.
I thought it was terrible, actually. I thought it was terrible. So we'll talk about it a little bit. Under the last administration, the Department of Justice targeted faithful Catholics, Christians, and patriotic parents as domestic extremists. They said, "Oh, they're extreme."
Do you remember that happening?
They're extreme because they go to Catholic church.
Do you remember that happening under the Biden administration? I remember. I saw that report. I saw that leak. And I wondered what on earth is going on in the United States. It's all of these things happening at the same time. were responsible for getting me to say, look, I have to do something, I have to say something. And that's why I started doing this on the channel. So unless you're happy with the way things have been, all right, you can't just sit idly by and just say, well, there's nothing that can be done. Christians were being targeted. If you held very strong conservative views, you were labeled a terror threat. Let me remind you, people were getting arrested for praying outside abortion clinics. People were getting arrested for praying outside abortion clinics. Hold that in your mind.
Church or evangelicals, everybody was under the gun. Unless you were a really bad, sick person, then they left you alone. Under the Trump administration, we're going after Antifa criminals, and all who fund and support their campaigns are in serious trouble. And we have a lot of records already, a lot of surprises, a lot of bad surprises. It's people that you would never think. I want to thank Attorney General Pam Bondi, who, by the way, yesterday was incredible in Congress.
So why would people, and this is just something I want to talk about, why would people only be comfortable with people who are mentally unhinged? The only people they have a problem with are people who can think for themselves and people who are religious and worship God. It's a simple reason. People who are unhinged and deranged are dependent on the government for everything. They can't work. They can't hold down a job. They depend on welfare. And as long as Big Daddy government is willing to give them welfare, they will do whatever Big Daddy government tells them to do. And that's what socialist and communist countries thrive on. The useful idiots, people who don't think for themselves, people who just do whatever it is the government says they should do and think the way the government says they should think. However, the people who have convictions, the people who are conservatives, the people who have agency and believe that they can and should have responsibility for their actions, and they are subject not to a government but under a higher power, God, they are a threat to people who want to wield power over them. And so they are the danger. That's why you see the push against anyone who has conservative values. Conservatives have the ability to think for themselves. Conservatives have the ability to have agency and to reject anyone who attempts to control them.
It was amazing, and she just did it from the heart and the brain, because she's very smart, in all fairness. But she did it from the heart, and she did it an incredible. Everybody was talking about it. She exposed some of these fake senators, these terrible senators, people like Blumenthal that had a phony war record. For 20 years, he talked about what a hero he was, and it turned out he never went to Vietnam. For 20 years, he talked about being a hero in Vietnam. Then it was exposed when he said what platoon he was with, and it was exposed that somebody was watching from that particular platoon. They said he was never with us. And then he went out and he cried, and he was ready to drop out of the election. And disgraceful. And then he looks at people like Pam and he starts criticizing her, and she's a patriot.
Why is it that for those of you who are watching who may know more about this than I do, has there been a Republican senator or congressperson or person holding office in any capacity who has been caught with claiming that they were in combat or they were in the military and they weren't? It's called stolen valor. They tried to sound like they were a war hero or they were in the military, they served in the military, but they didn't. Has anyone in the Republican Party ever done this? Because this has happened several times within the Democrat Party. It seems like a pattern. Let me know if that has ever happened for the Republican Party.
They ought to do something with that. We have a young congressman that's right now in jail for lying about where he went to college and other things. It was, frankly, not good. It was pretty bad, but it was nothing compared to Blumenthal. I mean, what Blumenthal did, he was for 20 years a hero, a great war hero. And then he sits back and, sanctimonious kind of a guy, looks at, how dare you do this to the American public, What a fake. But I thought Pam was incredible yesterday, as well as Secretary Kristi Noem, who's really out there courageously, and I appreciate it, Kristi, amazing what you're doing. FBI Director Kash Patel, who's really coming up with some great information, Kash. It's great. Keep it coming, because there's plenty of it. Deputy Attorney General, one of the best lawyers you'll ever find, Todd Blanche, who I know personally is a good lawyer because I'm here. Thank you very much, Todd. Good job, Todd. Let me ask Attorney General Bondi to say a few words, and then we'll follow it up with Secretary Noem and Director Patel. And we're going to have some of the people around the table, very courageous people, and they're going to be talking, journalists, almost all, and they're going to be talking, and we'll take some questions from the press at the end. Okay, Pam, please.
Thank you, President Trump. And as you made clear, Antifa is a domestic left-wing terrorist organization. We've seen them on video for years because they wanted to be seen and they got away with it. They beat journalists, they attack courthouses, they attack police stations, they dox and assault our law enforcement officers. The Biden administration let them commit these crimes with total impunity for years. So did Democrat leaders like Pritzker and Mayor Brandon Johnson. Last week, independent journalist Nick Sorter was arrested just for protecting himself against Antifa. I saw it online and I called Nick. I couldn't believe what happened. He did all this just trying to save our American flag from being burned. He was pushed down and assaulted, yet the local police arrested Nick, not the Antifa thugs who did this to him.
We saw that.
Antifa feels empowered to operate in the open because weak Democrats have turned a blind eye to their actions. Their hatred for President Trump and for law and order agendas fuels their violence. We've seen more than 1,000% increase in attacks against our ICE agents since January 20th. Secretary Noem is out there fighting for you firsthand to keep our federal officers safe, to keep our federal buildings safe, and we're not going to have it anymore, these thugs. We saw what's happening in Portland and Chicago, and you saw what happened in Dallas. No longer. This is not activism, it's anarchy. We can't and we will not let masked terrorists burn our buildings, attack our law enforcement, and intimidate our communities. Under your leadership, President Trump, we're deploying the full might of the federal law enforcement to crack down on Antifa and other domestic terrorist organizations led by Stephen Miller. And Stephen, thank you for everything you're doing. Last week, I issued a memo ordering our federal law enforcement agents, DEA, FBI, U.S. Marshals, and ATF to protect ICE officers from Antifa and other radical left-wing violence. Director Patel has been going non-stop. He and Deputy Attorney General Blanche were in Chicago yesterday. While Secretary Noem was in Portland, we are around this country fighting against this domestic terrorism. We had Apple and Google take down the ICE block apps. Hope they continue to comply with that, threatening the safety of our federal law enforcement officers. We're not going to stop at just arresting the violent criminals we can see in the streets. Fighting crime is more than just getting the bad off the streets. It's breaking down.
Obviously, the world and cabinet meeting has kicked off.
He was a great Italian explorer. He sailed his 3 ships, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, across the Atlantic Ocean and landed in what's today the Caribbean. But this is a particularly important holiday for Italian Americans who celebrate the legacy of Christopher Columbus and the innovation and explorer zeal that he represented.
In other words, we're calling it Columbus Day.
Yes.
Oh boy.
That was the press that broke out in applause. I can't believe that. I've never seen that happen before. The press actually broke out in applause. Good. Columbus Day. We're back.
Finally.
We're back, Italians. We
love the Italians. Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Great.
Columbus Day. Amazing work.
So we covered Scandinavia and Italy. Not bad. Now for the rest of the world. So I want to thank everybody for being here. As you know, last night we reached a momentous breakthrough in the Middle East, something that people said was never going to be done. We ended the war in Gaza and really, on a much bigger basis, created peace. And I think it's going to be a lasting peace, hopefully an everlasting peace. Peace in the Middle East. We secured the release of all of the remaining hostages, and they should be released on Monday or Tuesday. Getting them is a complicated process. I'd rather not tell you what they have to do to get them. There are places you don't want to be, but we are getting the hostages back on Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday, and that'll be a day of joy. I'm going to try and make a trip over. We're going to try and get over there, and we're working on the timing, the exact timing. We're going to go to Egypt, where we'll have a signing, an additional signing. We've already had a signing representing me, but we're going to have an official signing. And the amazing thing is all of the countries over there, from Qatar to Saudi Arabia to UAE to all of them, I mean, the rich ones, the less than rich ones, they've all come together, something which is amazing, actually. They've all come together for this, and they're really probably the best relationships they've ever had. So it's been really something incredible that nobody thought it was possible to get it done. And very importantly, the hostages are coming back. As you know, they consider them hostages. They talk about them as hostages, but there are approximately 28 dead people, mostly young, mostly men, but and boys. I mean, boys.
My goodness.
The one woman talked about her baby. Her baby's 25 years old, but you know, to her it's her baby, and we're bringing them home, getting everything, and to those parents, the dead young man is just as important, as though this person were alive. It's amazing. I've never seen anything quite like it. I've been very much involved. I've never seen anything quite like it. But it's really peace in the Middle East. And you remember October 7th was terrible, but also from the Hamas standpoint, they probably lost 70,000 people. That's big retribution. That's big retribution. But at some point, that whole thing has to stop, and we're going to see to it. Gaza is going to be slowly redone. You have tremendous wealth in that part of the world by certain countries, and just a small part of that, what they make will do wonders for Gaza. And I think you're going to see some tremendous countries stepping up and putting up a lot of money and taking care of things. But there's tremendous spirit like I haven't seen. And even the news, I won't call it fake news for this purpose, because they really were very fair today, I must tell you, in all cases. But they covered it very well. They covered it very fairly. Everybody loves it. Everybody. People that were never giving us a fair shake, frankly, they can't even believe it. They're so they're amazed by it. A lot of people are. But it was just everything came together. I think the attack was very important on Iran, because let's say that didn't happen, they'd probably by now have a nuclear weapon, numerous nuclear weapons, and therefore, even if we signed a deal, there'd be a big dark cloud over it, and it wouldn't be the same thing. So Iran's different, but Iran wants to work on peace now. They've informed us, and they've acknowledged that they are totally in favor of this deal. They think it's a great thing. So we appreciate that, and we'll work with Iran. As you know, we have major sanctions on Iran and lots of other things. We would like to see them be able to rebuild their country too, but they can't have a nuclear weapon. So I want to express my tremendous gratitude to the leaders of Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey for helping us reach this incredible day and for being there. They were there with us all the way. And of course, as you know, Saudi Arabia and Jordan and so many. I will tell you, President Erdogan was personally involved in dealing with Hamas and some of the others. He's been great. They've all been they've all been really amazing. Indonesia's been amazing. Indonesia's been fantastic. The whole world has come together for this. People that didn't get along, people that didn't like each other, neighboring countries that frankly didn't like each other, but now it's just this moment in time. So we look forward to welcoming the hostages, like you can't believe, home to their families, and that'll take place early next week. We hope Monday or Tuesday. And all Americans should be proud of the role that our country has played in bringing this terrible conflict to an end. And I want to thank, some of the people, JD, you were fantastic, and Pete, you were great. Marco was fantastic. Some of you were very much involved. I'm looking around. So indirectly, I think almost everybody in this room was involved. Susie, I want to thank you very much. You were incredible. You've done an incredible job. So, and yes, John, what you've done was invaluable. CIA, John Ratcliffe, and he's done an incredible job. So I want to thank you all, and if I'm missing anybody, I apologize, but you've been amazing. And then you have Steve Witkoff, who worked so hard. And you remember we settled 7, this is number 8, we settled 7 wars or major conflicts, but wars. And this is number 8. And the one that I thought would be maybe the quickest of all would be Russia-Ukraine, and I think that's going to happen too. But in the meantime, they're losing about 7,000 people a week, and that seems pretty bad. They're losing mostly soldiers, young soldiers. They go out to war, and they're getting killed. And while it doesn't affect us in a lot of ways, we've got a big ocean in between. You don't want to see that happen. It was a big mistake. That war should have never happened. It would have never happened if I were president. So we're here this morning for a cabinet meeting as my administration continues to deliver for the American people, despite the radical left lunatics that shut down our government. You have Democrats that they've lost their way. They have no leadership. We don't even know who to deal with over there. At least they know who to deal with. We have no idea who we're dealing with over there. It's like they have no idea what they're doing. Republicans have voted repeatedly to pass a clean, nonpartisan bill to reopen government at the same funding levels. We're not going to do anything only good for health care. We're really, I think, become the party of good health care. And they keep using health care as a cudgel. They want to try and get everyone thinking about health care. We're the ones that are saving health care. In fact, one of the things we're doing is we're going to be reducing the cost of medicines by 100%, 200, 300, 500%, and even more than that, because as you know, we're in the process of favored nations right now. We've exercised a clause because we were subsidizing the entire world. The entire world pays a fraction of what the United States has been paying. And we've already, numerous Pfizer and other companies have already signed, and other countries are a bigger problem because they've been getting a subsidized rate. We've been paying for years. This has gone on for 30 years. We've been reducing the rate of drugs for other countries because we've been paying much more than we're supposed to. And they use all sorts of ideas like research and development. I said, what about Germany? What about these other countries? Aren't they paying? No, we have to pay research and development. It was all nonsense, and I couldn't listen to it anymore. So it's a very radical, big, tough shift, very tough. We had a lot of things going up there. But, you probably heard me say this in my first term, I think it was my 3rd year, we reduced drugs from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. And I was so proud of it. I actually had a news conference to announce it, and it was 1/8 of 1%. Think of that, which is barely a reduction. But it's the first time in 28 years that there was a reduction in drug prices for the year. So from the beginning to the end, it was 1/8 of 1%. And I was so proud of myself. I did something that nobody else could do. But when I started to think about it, I said, doesn't make sense. And then I'm starting to look at numbers where a pill or a treatment or some pharmaceutical product is selling in Europe for 10% of what we pay for in New York City or in any one of our places, and cities, states. And then I see people leaving for other other countries to go buy their pharmaceuticals, where they make journeys to various other countries, including Europe, where they got the best bargains of all. And I put an end to it. It's over. And now we're, in major, I guess, disputes, but we're winning the disputes by a lot. With the countries, a couple of countries said, we won't do this. I said, well, it's unfair that we're paying 10%, and, you're paying just a fraction of what we're paying for the same product made in the same plant. And they said, well, we're not going to do it. I said, that's okay. You don't have to do it. But I'm going to put a tariff of 9% or 7% or whatever the amount of money is. And I'm going to put a tariff on your country for the amount of money that you're taking advantage of us for. No, you guys said, yeah, I can do that. I'm going to do that. And they would immediately agree. And it'd make the tariff substantially more than the number we're talking about. And they would immediately agree. So we have the consent, I think, Bobby, of every country, essentially. They know that if they don't do it, we're going to put a tariff on for double the price, and then they're going to do it. So we never had that before. You never had anybody in here that knew what the hell they were doing, I'll be honest. It really, it makes me angry. Because for years and years, and this started many years ago, and basically we subsidize the world. So this is going to have a huge positive impact on Medicare, Medicaid, even Social Security. But anything where there's pharmaceuticals, drugs involved, it's going to have a tremendous impact. So we're going to get drug reductions of 100%. I told you 1/8 of 1% that I was proud of myself. Now you're going to get 100%, 150%, 200, 300, 400, 500%. You're going to get the biggest drug reductions that you've ever seen. And they're already, I guess they're starting to kick in, but we've made deals with numerous companies and we're going for the full bore. We want whatever the price is. So that would mean that the world price, because the world is bigger than the United States, a lot more people, but the world price will go up a little bit and our price will come down a lot. So if a pill sells for $10 in London and $100 here, the pill will go to $20 in London and $20 for us. It's pretty simple. And that is a number that nobody can even fathom. It's a little like tariffs. Nobody knew how big they were. Nobody knew until they started seeing the trillions of dollars that have come in. I don't know why they didn't understand it. It's something they should have understood. We were taken advantage of for years with tariffs. And now, I don't want to say we're taking advantage, but we've become a very strong country because of the money that's coming in. Republicans have voted repeatedly to pass a clean, nonpartisan bill to reopen our government. And remember, at the same funding levels, both parties have supported in the past. So the radical Democrats have chosen to put the economy of our country. We have the best economy we've ever had. We had the best economy in my first term, but we have an economy that's blowing it away. And we have the Democrats that are trying to obstruct. They don't want to have a good economy. I don't think they want to have a good country. That's why they try and stop our law enforcement from doing what we did in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C., we have a great, safe, beautiful capital right now. Beautiful. It's so safe. You can walk down the street. Numerous people standing before me were mugged. And you're not going to get mugged anymore. We have a safe capital, one of the safest. We took it from one of the most unsafe places to one of the most safe places in the country. And we also beautified it, and we're in the process of doing even more so. So we're very proud of our capital. Again, we were embarrassed by our capital. A lot of people being killed. They'd come from Iowa, Indiana, Florida. They'd come up, and they end up getting shot. They're not getting shot. We moved out 1,700 people approximately, right? Approximately 1,700 hardened criminals, career criminals. They moved them out. So Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and the congressional Democrats are holding the entire federal government hostage. I will tell you, a lot of Democrats want to get this thing open too. They do. They're calling us, and they just want to get it open. And all we're doing is saying, just play the same thing until we get it straight. And they don't know how to go about it. I mean, and the problem is we really don't know who the hell is leading the Democrats. You have this AOC, I don't know her at all, but I watched her the other day. She said Well, if they want, they could come to my office. That's not leadership, you know. The only one that challenged her actually was Nancy Pelosi, and Nancy's not looking too good. I don't know what happened to Nancy, but she's not looking great. But she was the only one, I give her credit, she was the only one that challenged her. But AOC said that they can come to her office and negotiate, the Republicans. And we're saying, oh, I didn't know she was in leadership. But she's taking Hakeem Jeffries' place, and Schumer's afraid that she's going to run against him. And right now, I don't know, he can change, life is crazy, right? But right now he can't beat, I don't think he can beat anybody. So he'll lose in a primary. I would say he'll retire before he loses in a primary. So I think Schumer's going to retire because he can't beat anybody. His polls are so bad. Meanwhile, the Democrat shutdown is causing pain and suffering for hardworking Americans, including our military, our air traffic controllers, and impoverished mothers, people with young children, people that have to live not the greatest of lives. But we're doing so many tax cuts. We've cut their taxes, the great big beautiful bill, we've cut their taxes at levels that nobody's ever seen. I mean, no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. It's been a great thing for a lot of people. They're doing great. Despite all of the damage that it's caused, the shutdown has been, you know, pretty damaging. I mean, it's not yet because it's early, but it gets a little bit worse as it goes along. And we'll be making cuts that will be permanent. And we're only going to cut Democrat programs. I hate to tell you. I guess that makes sense. But we're only cutting Democrat programs. But we're going to start that. And we have Russell. We can talk to you about it if he wants to. But we'll be cutting some very popular Democrat programs that aren't popular with Republicans, frankly, because that's the way it works. They wanted to do this, so we'll give them a little taste of their own medicine. But Chuck Schumer proclaimed this morning that every day gets better for them. No, every day it's actually getting worse for them. And they're having a rebellion in the Democrat Party because they want to stop. And if you saw all of Schumer's, I watched last night like 10 different times over the years, he said, you can't shut down government, you can't shut down, and now he's the one that shut it down. So this is a confession that he's acting not to serve the people, but to serve the partisan interests of his party. And I don't think he's serving them well because they're way down. Look, they just lost an election in a landslide. You know, it was interesting. I watched Kamala, who was a sad figure. I watched her the other day saying the election was very close. I said, no, the election was a landslide. We won the popular vote by millions. We won the Electoral College by, I think, 312 or 315 to 220 something. But there's another one that we won that's probably, that's why when you see the maps are completely red. It's counties. The counties, we won at 2,505 to 525. So 2,500 to 525. That's called one of the greatest, biggest landslides in history. And that's one that people are using now as a primary. But literally, when you see it colored in, the entire country is red representing Republicans. So, you know, they go around, they just lie. They just lie. And everything's a big lie with them. Well, the other side, and the other thing I don't understand is, Christie, I looked at crime numbers in Chicago. They're through the roof, and I have a governor who stands up every day and tells us how wonderful Chicago is. It's just a lie. It's like a con job. It's like Gavin Newsom. He says how well he's doing in California, and they're doing terribly. Population's getting smaller. People are leaving. And other people are coming in, and, you know, I wouldn't say it's an even trade. While the other side is focused on playing games, the Trump administration is focused on creating jobs, bringing down prices, and we've really brought them down a lot. That's the other thing. We're bringing down prices a lot. We're bringing down grocery prices, but the big thing is energy. When you bring down energy, everything comes down, and the energy prices are way down. I see we're down to about $61 now. Barrel, and what gasoline's going to be, I think gasoline's going to be below $2 at some point in the pretty near future. It's very low, much lower than it was under Sleepy Joe. And we're restoring law and order in our country. We're restoring it here, but we're restoring it right now. We're in Memphis. We're going to Chicago. We're going to other cities. Many governors are asking us to, including Democrats are trying to ask. I don't know what the big problem is. If I were a Democrat governor, I'd be saying, whatever you can do to get crime down, I'll take anybody. You can bring them in I don't care who it is. A lot of people said that. They interviewed women, these beautiful women in Chicago, black women with a MAGA hat, a red hat. They said, we don't care who he brings in here, but this place is really dangerous. We just want crime to stop. It's true. Yep. They don't care.
They're saying it.
They don't differentiate between the National Guard and the Marines. They don't care. They'll take anybody. And that's the way it is. I mean, they want what we did in D.C., they want to happen to them. And it's happening in Memphis already. I see in less than a week, the numbers are really good. And it'll be great. And we'll fix that. We'll go to various other places. And we're going to be stopping crime in our cities. And that's a great thing. And we won't get credit for it, but it's a great thing. We've launched a historic campaign to take back our nation from the gangs and the street criminals, violent repeat offenders, illegal alien lawbreakers, domestic extremists, and savage, bloodthirsty cartels. And very little, by the way, is coming in by water, in case you haven't known. The drugs aren't coming in by water. In fact, we can't even find any boats in the water anymore. We had boats, we were like a subway train loaded up with drugs. Every single boat that you see getting taken out kills 25,000 Americans. Think of that. Because it's pretty tough stuff, but it kills 25,000 Americans. So when you hear that, it's no longer tough. But here in Washington, we've deployed federal law enforcement and National Guard to restore public safety, and we're working to replicate that in numerous places all over the country. And we have a very powerful military. We have a very powerful National Guard. I want to thank the governor of Texas, who has been, as usual, great. Governor Abbott, he gave us 400 troops without even a question. And we have other governors likewise doing what has to be done because they know we have to confront crime. We're directly confronting the sinister threat of left-wing domestic terrorism and violence, including the terrorist group Antifa. You saw that yesterday. We had a news conference. Antifa's out of control in Portland and other places, but mostly Portland in the case of Antifa. And we had people that were really badly affected by them. It was terrible. So one of those things, but we're knocking the hell out of them. And we're looking for the people that are funding them, and those people are going to be just as guilty as the people that smack people over the head with a baseball bat. And I'd like now to ask Attorney General Bondi and Secretary Noem to discuss this a little bit and tell where we are. And then we'll go around the room. We'll go quickly. We're going to go quickly if we can because we have a lot of things to do, including I won't be spending that much time here because I'll be leaving fairly soon for the Middle East. And I'm very honored to be involved with that, I'll tell you. It's a great thing for our country. People are so happy about it. I've never experienced anything quite like it. I've never seen such universal praise for being able to do something.
CNN said
nobody thought it was possible. And
CNN supported it.
Having peace in the Middle East. Who would have thought? So, Pam, could you start? And then Christy, please.
Sure, President Trump, and despite the Democrat shutdown of our government, our law enforcement officers are out there working without paychecks, round the clock to keep and make America safe. Secretary Hegseth and I were recently in Memphis. We had 1,100 law enforcement officers in one room with us. The Memphis PD, they were the happiest to see us, don't you think, Secretary Hegseth, of anyone. We had ATF, DEA, FBI, U.S. Marshals. I'm not sure if our park police were there. We had Treasury, Secretary Bessent, and of course we had Secretary Noem's Homeland Security, all working together with the Guard. They were so happy to have us there. We've been making arrests left and right. So far, we made 562 arrests and seized 144 illegal guns just in the short time we've been in Memphis.
And many of these people are career criminals. And when you take them out of a place, your crime rate just goes down. These people commit crimes every single day. They're sick. And we're taking them out. In some cases, we're bringing them back to their countries where Biden allowed with the stupid open borders that we had in our country to come in, but they're being brought back to other places, or they're being put in jail, but they're career criminals.
President Trump, last night alone, we made 91 arrests, 19 firearms off the streets, and one was a warrant for a homicide, and 4 sex offenders who had active warrants. One was a sex offender on a child. Everything we did in Memphis was worth it, in my opinion, for that one arrest. Think about that. We got a child rapist off the streets, but yet we've made 562 arrests and still going strong in Memphis. Just what we did in D.C. But it's because it's all of us. It's a team working for you to make America safe all together, round the clock.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Pam. You're doing a great job. And it's amazing that we're not getting cooperation from Democrats. It's like, it's a new issue. You know, we have all the old issues of the wall and the border and all of the things, men playing in women's sports they still want that, transgender for everybody. All these issues are so crazy, but we have a new one. It's called crime. We stop crime and they allow crime. They want crime. It doesn't make sense. I think it's as ridiculous as the other things that we talk about all the time. But I've added it onto our list, a 5-letter word called crime. We stop it, and they actually incite it. It's crazy. You would think they'd want them. You'd think they'd want Christy and Pam and all of the people. If we needed the military, Pete will be there. We've got a massive military. We have the best numbers we've ever had for recruitment. We have a lot of people now. We have people that can't get into them. In a great economy, they want to be soldiers again. A year ago, they didn't want to even think about it. Same thing as with police and firemen, everything. They want to join. They're proud of our country again. Christy, go ahead, please.
Well, sir, thank you for your leadership and for deploying all of government to help us keep our country safe. You have talked extensively about how threatened our ICE officers are, but all of our law enforcement out there. And we saw the shooting in Dallas at that facility, so we're hardening all of our buildings and making sure that we have more security measures, snipers on the roof, people to protect our law enforcement while they're out there on the streets. But what I'm also doing, sir, is, and with your authority, is we're purchasing more buildings in Chicago to operate out of. We're going to not back off. In fact, we're doubling down, and we're going to be in more parts of Chicago in response to the people there. And then I was there a few days ago and looked at some facilities that we can deploy more law enforcement out of. Because what they're trying to do with these riots and violence is distract us and keep us from going after those murderers and rapists that are out in the streets. And then I was in Portland, went out and back on Tuesday and met with the governor, met with the mayor, met with the chief of police and the superintendent of the highway patrol. They are all lying and disingenuous and dishonest people. Because as soon as you leave the room, then they make the exact opposite response. So we're looking at new facilities to purchase. They're in Portland too, and we're going to double down. And I told them if they didn't meet our demands for safety and security on the streets and work with us, then we were going to bring in more federal law enforcement. So I want to thank Pete and the Department of War for all their help. They've been fantastic. But while we fight litigation and work with Pam on that, we're going to send more of our resources and men and women out there to keep everybody safe. So no worries. What we see in D.C. and what we see in Memphis for benefits for people in the safety and security, we'll see that in Chicago and Portland.
And the numbers in Memphis, it's only a week, but the numbers have been amazing, I understand.
That's exactly right.
The crime numbers are way down.
Fantastic. And it shows what a partnership can be between local law enforcement and the federal government. And if we have to do it the hard way in Portland and Chicago, we will. But the people demand.
And President Trump, my lawyers are in court right now as we speak for you, arguing in Chicago and Portland to keep them safe, to bring in the Guard. The government doesn't want it there, but we do. We're going to keep their citizens safe thanks to you.
The people want it. I don't understand the politics of it. I don't understand why Pritzker is trying to protect people that are
They're more scared of the anarchists that are on the street and the politics of it than they are of
imagine that
of doing the right thing.
I think they're afraid.
Yeah,
I think they're threatened. They don't tell us, but I think Pritzker's threatened by people because there's no other reason that this could be possible, that they don't want to have a safe Chicago. And we can solve the problem very quickly. And we're doing that anyway, regardless of if he doesn't want it or if he does want it, we're doing it anyway. So make sure.
I asked the mayor that himself. He said that Portland was perfectly safe, a beautiful city, no problems. And I said, well, why did you clear the streets for me today then?
Yep.
Build out a 4-block radius.
Look at that.
To get in and out of here. And these people on the street screaming death to ICE. There's graffiti that says Molotovs melt ICE. We have the guillotines. We're going to use them.
Portland's almost different. It's like anarchists.
It is. It really is.
You know, it's really different than a lot of the others. This is a sick situation, but those are anarchists. Those are people that want to overthrow government. They're really degenerates. And we're finding out who is supplying all of those beautiful signs and everything
Well,
else.
Scott's been fantastic. His team finding the financial networks is great. That's what
Okay,
gives
Scott,
everybody.
Scott will do that. That's easy for Scott.
We got a great team, sir.
That's good. How about we go to Marco? You can talk a little bit about.
Do you think that they're going to have any indictments on this? Let me know in the chat.
I don't know one day perhaps the entire story will be told about the events of yesterday, but suffice it to say, it's not an exaggeration that none of it would have been possible without the President of the United States being involved. It really began with your trip to the Middle East, where the relationships were forged with partners in the region, personal relationships, close relationships that created the foundation where all of this was possible. Where I think this really took a turn. Remember, a month ago, no one thought this was possible. Where it really took a turn about a month ago, less than a couple weeks ago, is when we were at the United Nations and you convened a historic meeting, not simply of Arab countries, but of Muslim majority countries from around the world, including Indonesia was there, Pakistan was there, and created this coalition behind this plan. Then on that following Monday, you met with the Prime Minister of Israel here, and that plan was presented. And then, of course, our great negotiating team followed up on it. In the interim, again, perhaps the stories will be told, perhaps they will never be told. The president had some extraordinary phone calls and meetings that required
it's an understatement.
Intensity and commitment, and made this happen. And I think what's important to understand is that yesterday what happened was really a human story. There's a geopolitical aspect to it, there's no doubt about it. It creates the conditions for Gaza to one day be a normal place again and people to have a better life and Israelis to be safe. But yesterday was a human story. And because of the work you put in, and honestly, not only is there no other leader in the world that could have put this together, Mr. President, but frankly, I don't know of any American president in the modern era that could have made this possible. Because of the actions you have taken unrelated to this and because of who you are and what you've done and how you're viewed. And this weekend, because of that, at some point very soon, we are going to see 20 living human beings emerge from the darkness into the light for the first time in 2 years. And that is because not only were you used the credibility and the power and the prestige of this office and the relationships you created, and you committed yourself to making it happen. And I think it will go down as a historic moment in the history of our country, and something our country should be very proud of, that we have a president that's committed to not just peace, but to the human aspect of reuniting these families. My last point on this is just a couple days ago, Secretary Lutnick hosted us all, many of us, at the Kennedy Center. And we have these families, we've interacted with them for so many years, for 2 years now. And the stories are heartbreaking, both whose families are alive and those who are deceased as well, who want their relatives back so that they can complete the process of grieving. And we had all hoped that perhaps that was the day that we would have an announcement for them on the anniversary of the 7th. But I know you were able to speak to some of those families last night. And I just hope the whole nation understands how incredibly proud they should be of their president and of their country for the role that they've played. And I don't want to let this moment pass, Mr. President, without also noting the incredible work of Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. They're an incredible team working together, facing some substantial impediments to even being there this weekend and doing it. Let me just leave it at that. And they've done a great job on your behalf, Mr. President. They deserve a tremendous amount of credit. But thank you for what you've done for the world.
Thank you very much, Walter. I appreciate it. I think because we have a very busy day with all that's going on, what we'll do is maybe just a few of you raise your hand if you'd like to say something don't talk too long, Doug. He's doing such a great job. So good that he could talk all day. That's the problem, right? But and what we'll do is just take a few hands, and then we'll go back to getting peace done. Okay, we'll go a little bit quicker. We'll take a few questions from the press. Go ahead, please.
President Trump, I just want to double down on what Marco was sharing. It's such a remarkable accomplishment. Agree that no other president could have done this, but what set the groundwork for you able to do that? When you took office on January 20th, you made a 180-degree turn in our military strength with Pete's leadership. You were the master class in peace through strength. So militarily, we've completely turned around. We've demonstrated that through execution against Iran and others, that we have force. We want to end wars, but we'll use power if we have to. And then secondarily, peace through strength is also the prosperity, having the strongest economy and being willing to wield the power of a tariff in addition to the military power to reorder the globe. Those two things that you're standing on, both economic power and military power, allowed these negotiations to go forward. And I think as you've described, the importance of these economic negotiations and all the trade deals, but that also begins with another 180-degree turn, and that was the 180-degree turn on energy. You have used energy diplomacy to bring prosperity to the American people, and you've used it to bring peace abroad. The combination of those three things have been remarkable, and now we're seeing the remarkable result. And we got one more that I know you want to end with Russia and Ukraine. Energy is going to play a key role in that. And now with this historic agreement, we're in a position working with the Middle East to also end the Russian-Ukraine conflict. So again, congratulations.
Thank you very much, Nick. I appreciate it. Maybe I'll go to you for a second. You can just cap out what he said about the military, how well we're doing and how big it is and how strong it is.
Mr. President, you're exactly right. At the War Department, you don't get peace without strength. And our job is to be the strength part of the equation and deliver that when necessary, as you demonstrated with your Order of Midnight Hammer. And the entire world saw. And I just want to echo what Marco said. It is a personal honor to be able to witness the way you lead and negotiate. I wish people had a full understanding of what that looks like. That historic nature. A lot of us vets, the Vice President, Tulsi, Lee, Doug, probably after decades of war and the chaos that was unleashed through reckless and foolish American policies, never thought this kind of peace would be possible. Yet, with your strength, with your ability to wield trade negotiations, personal relationships, to open up that opportunity is truly historic on the world stage. And it creates a whole number of other cascading effects. And watching Marco and the Vice President and Steve and Jared, the CIA director, everybody come together to make it happen. You've formed a phenomenal team, Mr. President. And at the War Department, our job is to make sure if and when there's question about American commitment, the whole world knows we've got the biggest, strongest, most lethal, and most ready War Department in the world, which is true, which is why we saw record recruitment in 2025, Mr. President. The first 2 weeks of 2026 already blows that out. FY 2026 blows it out of the water. In fact, re-enlistment has already met its year-long goal in the Marine Corps in 2026. 2 weeks. Okay. You can't, there's no other way to create that kind of love and enthusiasm than with your leadership, sir. And it is an honor to work with Pam and with Christy and the cities across the country to make sure American citizens and law enforcement are protected with our National Guard. But that's a core mission. And last thing, Mr. President, on the southwest border, the first group that rotated in to lock down that border to zero crossings is now rotating out. And with a new border medal, the Southwest Border Medal, or Central Mexican Border Medal, revived from 1918, that will be pinning on their chest. So thank you for renaming the department, and we're trying to live up to it every day. Thank you, sir.
I mean, think of this. We have record numbers of recruitment. 1 year ago, there were stories, front-page stories, that we couldn't get anybody to join the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard. I call it our beautiful Space Force. I love our Space Force. It's turned out to be very important. But we couldn't get anybody to join. Nobody wanted to join, including our police and fire. They didn't want to join anything. Recruitment was embarrassing. We couldn't get anybody. And now we're brimming. Now it's, and they're getting in based on merit now. A soldier's a soldier. They come in now based on merit, not based on woke stuff that anybody can qualify. You have to qualify for jobs. You have to qualify for certain types of jobs.
Wasn't that a horrible 4 years?
So we were embarrassed. a year ago, think of it, a little bit more than a year ago, I think it stopped on November 5th. I think it really started, this all started on November 5th, the election day. But now everybody wants to be, and we have an overabundance, and maybe we should raise it a little bit. I don't know.
I like that idea, sir.
But we could raise it. But we have so many people want to join, and they're proud of our country again. JD, could I ask you to say a few words?
Yes, sir. So just a couple of things. Mr. President, first of all, congratulations on yesterday. It was a big day. To Marco, to Susie, to the entire team, but in particular, viewing it from this perspective where for months, the fake news media attacked you, attacked the entire team, attacked your approach. You know, the definition of insanity is to do the same thing again and again, expecting a different result. The reason we're here is because the president actually charted a different course with a different team. He vested a lot of authority in Steve Witkoff in particular, and that's why we're here. It's because you did something different, and I think it's important to recognize that. I also think the president, Marco mentioned the president's personal touch being a big part of this. The one thing I would say is obviously the president of the United States, a New York real estate billionaire, one of the most famous New Yorkers in the world, has a lot of interaction with a lot of people who are very pro-Israel. I think that was an important set of experiences and life experiences that he brought to the table. He also, of course, knew one of the most famous Palestinians in the world, Chuck Schumer, and I think without that background of knowledge, it would have been impossible to get us to this point. Second thing I would say, just on Chuck Schumer, the president mentioned this, that Chuck Schumer said this has been very good for us this morning about the shutdown. One of the things that we talked about before all the media came in, and that all of us are going to work on for the rest of the day, we've been working on for days, is how to make the shutdown as painless as possible on the American people. So while Chuck Schumer brags about this being good, and I think the president is right, it's not good for him politically as much as he might think that it is. It's causing real consequences for the American people. There's a low-income food program, the WIC program, that my mom actually used when I was a baby. That program is about to be underfunded, and it's about to get cut off because Chuck Schumer won't open the government. We have troops. The Secretary of War mentioned how well we're doing on recruitment. We're trying to figure out how to pay our troops because Chuck Schumer is shutting down the U.S. government. There are veterans benefits that are going to suffer. There are Americans that are going to suffer because Chuck Schumer refuses to do his job. So while we're all celebrating this incredible success that we've had on the world stage, the country could be doing so much better if Chuck Schumer did his job and opened the government. Every single Republican, except for Rand Paul, has voted to open the government. A few moderate Democrats, to their credit, have voted with us to open the government. We just need 5 more Democrats to come to their senses and let the people's government serve the American people. I hope that they'll do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Chris,
Yeah, to follow up on that point, Mr. President, the Democrat or Schumer shutdown did not begin 8 or 9 days ago. It began 8 or 9 months ago with your inauguration. For the first time in American history, every Senate confirmed appointee who are our deputies to run our department, every one of them has been filibustered. One of the critical parts of my department is the National Nuclear Security Administration. It maintains, manufactures our nuclear weapons and our engines for nuclear submarines and nuclear aircraft carriers. We are a key supplier to Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. They filibustered, the Democrats filibustered the leader, the administrator of the National Nuclear Security Administration, would not let him come into my department until the Republicans 2 weeks ago changed the Senate rules so they could confirm him and we could have a leader. They filibustered the leadership, now they're filibustering the funding. In the next 6-7 days, we're going to run out of funding, and the retooling of our nuclear stockpile, the ultimate guarantor of our sovereignty, is going to be underfunded, and we're going to have to slow down and creep to us crawl these efforts. Just incredibly irresponsible for Schumer to worry about his own reelection and not the 340 million Americans that count on the efforts of our military and all of our departments. It's truly offensive, and we need to bring it to an end as soon as possible. Let's open the government back up.
And you're doing a great job. Thank you very much. Bobby, did you want to say something? You got a lot of things happening. A lot of very positive things, actually.
Mr. President, I'm glad you're getting bipartisan accolades on the Mideast peace agreement. You should also get bipartisan accolades on the MFN agreement. It is an historic agreement that's going to benefit every hardworking American. It's going to lower the price of drugs for every American. By the time this administration is over, we will have 95% of the drugs in this country will be the lowest price in the world. It immediately begins to affect Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, the other government programs. I remember when I went through the confirmation process, and the principal preoccupation of the Democrats during that process was whether I would continue the IRA negotiations on drugs. The Democrats negotiated 10 drugs. I'm supposed to negotiate every year 15. The 10 that they negotiated, they claimed to get a 22% reduction, but it was a lie. It was 22% under the list price, which was actually higher than the price we were getting. So Medicaid, Medicare ended up paying more for those drugs than they were paying beforehand. They only got a benefit on one drug. One was tied. 8 of them were lower. So they should be applauding what we're doing now. We're doing something that every administration, Democrat and Republican, has been saying that it was going to do.
But they never do.
And you got it done because you understood the power of the tariffs. That we had leverage over these companies. And you did it in a way which you asked us to do, to negotiate in a way that was not going to stifle innovation, that was going to make sure that those companies could bring their production home, and they are doing that. And it was a profound success. It will affect every American for 100 years. And you should be getting bipartisan accolades on that. I'll say one other thing about Tylenol, only because of this. This morning before I came in here, somebody showed me a TikTok video of a pregnant woman at 8 months pregnant. She is an associate professor at the Columbia Medical School. And she is saying F Trump and gobbling Tylenol with her baby in her placenta. And the level of Trump derangement syndrome has now left the political landscapes, and it is now in the realm of pathology.
Yeah, it is.
And a mother could overwhelm millions of years of maternal instinct to put her baby at risk. And all you have to do is look at the studies which you and I talked about. It's not dispositive that causes autism. It is so suggestive that anybody who takes this stuff during pregnancy, unless they have to, is irresponsible. There are 15 rodent studies. Every one of them shows if you give it to the mother, the babies, and particularly the male babies, have profound neurological and behavioral changes. There is a study from Johns Hopkins on cord blood where they divided women into 3 categories: those who had the least acetaminophen in their cord blood, and those who had the most. The ones with the most had 3.6 times the rate of autism in their children. The middle category had 2.2 times, so it's a dose-related response. And there are dozens of studies that show the countries that use the most with the highest level of autism. Cuba has the lowest level in the world of acetaminophen use, and it has the lowest autism rate in the world. Oh, this is not dispositive. It is not proof. We're doing the studies to make the proof. But in the meantime, the precautionary principle should apply. And any mother who is taking this stuff during pregnancy just to get back at Donald Trump is doing something that is pathological. And we're seeing that across the board. I got a lot of other stuff to talk about, but I know we got a short time here. But thank you, Mr. President. You're making our country healthier again.
Thank you, Bobby. Could you just say, for the record, state what the autism was, let's say, 20 years ago and what it is today?
In 1970, the largest epidemiological study in history was performed. 900,000 kids were looked at. They were looking for autism in Wisconsin children. They looked at every child in Wisconsin who was 8 years old. They found an autism rate of 0.7 per 10,000. So almost close to 1 in 20,000, less than 1 in 10,000. Today, the autism rates are nationally 1 in 31, but it's actually much worse than that because California, which has the best collection system, reports an autism rate of 1 in every 19 children, 1 in every 12.5 boys. This is a national security issue. There is nothing more important, and I'm grateful to you, Mr. President, because you know the flack that you take for talking about this issue. You've shown courage and you've shown leadership, and I can't thank you enough for letting me do this work.
Thank you. So think of that, 1 in 20,000, and now it's 1 in 12 for boys, 1 in 18, 19 for girls. So obviously there's something that's artificially, I think, induced, something, whether it's the vaccines in terms of these massive vaccines that are twice the size of a jar like that, of a glass of water like that, I mean, into a baby's body. And I've suggested get them in doses, get them in, maybe 20%, 30%, but smaller, not such a big. I think, that. Then we had certain recommendations, the MMR, take them separately. The measles is already separate now, and it works out much better, but there doesn't seem to be any impact if you take it separately. If you take it as a combination, it's not so great. And some other things, but I would say don't take Tylenol if you're pregnant, and when the baby is born, don't give it Tylenol. If you can avoid it at all, just don't give it Tylenol.
I'll say this.
Really, what do you have to lose? You really don't have much to lose. Yeah, go ahead.
There's also there's many other confirmation studies. There's 2 studies that show children who are circumcised early have double the rate of autism. And it's highly likely because they're given Tylenol. None of this is this positive, but all of it is stuff that we should be paying attention to.
But there's a tremendous amount of proof or evidence, I would say, as a non-doctor, but I've studied this a long time ago. I met Bobby in my office 20 years ago. We were talking about the same thing 20 years ago. And I was a real estate developer. It bothered me that it seemed to be getting worse, but it's so bad now when you hear these numbers. It's not even really sustainable. I don't know how people do it, but there is some very strong evidence on Tylenol. In fact, at one point, I guess the company gave a warning.
They still recommend it during pregnancy. That's the weird thing.
They're not recommending it, and that's the company itself. So just don't take it. Don't take it. If you're a woman, don't take it, and don't give it to the baby when the baby's born, and I think that's going to have an impact. But I'd also get the shots in smaller doses. There are a few things, we gave a few things that just seem to be, and I think you'd get that number way back up. Think of it. You have 1 in 20,000, and now it's not even believable when you think that 20,000 drops to 12 children. So that's induced
so 1 in 12 children.
Something that's given or taken, and it should be able to be stopped. And you're talking about the Pennsylvania Dutch. You were talking about the Amish, where they don't take any of this stuff, and they have virtually none, right? They have no autism. So we're doing something very bad. Somebody's been given some bad things. Other countries, by the way, we have 82 vaccines that we give simultaneously. And I'm a vaccine believer, by the way. I believe in the polio vaccine. I believe in a lot of vaccines. But when you give 82 vaccines in a shot to a little baby that hasn't even formed yet, it's a lot of vaccines. And in Japan, they give a much smaller number. In Germany, they give a much smaller, like 28 vaccines. That's a lot too, but 28 is a lot different than 82. So, but I would say on the Tylenol, don't take it, and that will be. I think it's going to be a big factor. I think it'll be a very good result, and I hope we're going to be able to see that result in the not too distant future. Because certainly, people have heard us loud and clear. That's why I bring it up again. That's why I asked you to talk about it. Because this is a horrible thing. And if you don't take it, I mean, you have to tough it through sometimes. There are other things you can do, but you have to tough it out. It's easy for me to say. But I think you're going to see numbers that will be it'll be so significantly improved, and maybe fully improved. I mean, there's something there. There's something going on, and we have to address it. And so I'm addressing it the best I can as a non-doctor, but I'm a man of common sense. Okay, any other questions?
I'd like to comment on the workforce.
Please.
Mr. President, a lot of people are calling to give you the Nobel Peace Prize after this peace deal that you managed to achieve in the Middle East. First of all, your opinion on that, and I was wondering about your trip to the Middle East, if you can tell us if you're considering to speak at the Knesset, at the Israeli parliament?
Well, they asked me to speak at the Knesset, and I've agreed to. If they would like me to, I will do it. It's the first time a president has ever done that, so that makes it very interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I will do it if they want me to. They have asked me to do that. Thank you.
Families of hostages are out in the streets in Israel dancing and crying tears
They're
of
all
joy.
dancing in the streets. Right now, they're dancing in the streets. They're so happy. Everybody's happy. They're dancing in the streets of Arab countries, Muslim countries. I've never seen anything like it. Everybody is happy. It's been really amazing. Thank you.
President Trump, on the international peacekeeping force that's going to deploy to Gaza soon, do you expect that Pakistan, Turkey, other countries to contribute forces? Has that been firmed up? And also on the shutdown, it seems like in the House there's a majority support for a temporary extension of the Obamacare subsidies, perhaps minus the funds for illegal immigrants. Is that how you see the deal to end the shutdown happening?
Well, I see the deal just getting extended as we continue to talk, but we're willing to pay because we're paying. It's very simple. We're paying. And the Democrats are the ones that caused this problem. And it's a big problem for them. They have a lot of break in their ranks. But so I see that, I think that'll get worked out. But we want to get back before we do this. We don't want to have a gun held to our head. We don't like that. And the public doesn't like it either. So we want to get back. And I think it's going to work out. I think it's going to work out very well. It's something that shouldn't have happened. This was supposed to take place before the election. This was supposed to take place on September 28th before the election. We shouldn't even be talking about this right now. This is actually something that shouldn't have even happened. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, looking ahead, what guarantees Hamas disarms and that Israel doesn't resume bombing once the hostages are released?
The first thing we're doing is getting our hostages back, okay? And that's what people wanted more than anything else. They wanted these hostages back that have lived in hell like nobody has ever even dreamt possible. And after that, we'll see. But they've agreed to things, and I think it's going to move along pretty well.
But what is phase two? When does it begin?
I'm not going to talk about that because you sort of know what phase two is, but there will be disarming, there will be pullbacks, there will be a lot of things that are happening. I gave you a whole list of 22 different things that will happen, that will take place. And I think it'll take place, and I think you're going to end up with peace in the Middle East. But we have to get our hostages back. And we weren't going to do it at the end. We're going to do it at the beginning. We said we want them at the beginning. We're not doing it. We got the hostages back. We did, as a group with Steve and Jared and Marco and me and all of us. We got the hostages back. We got many of them back. Many, unfortunately, were dead. But we got many back that are now living with their families, with their parents in many cases, and with their husbands, families, wives. Many of them, they celebrate all over. They're the ones that are celebrating the loudest. They're all over. There are a lot of them that we got out. But the last 20, and I always said the last ones are going to be the most difficult. But it's been a very big deal getting the hostages out. But the rest is going to take place too.
And can you promise Palestinians they will be able to stay?
Well, they know exactly what we're doing. We're going to create something where people can live. You can't live right now in Gaza. The place is it's a horrible situation. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. So yeah, we're going to create better conditions for people. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, what kind of security guarantees is the United States going to make for Gaza?
Well, we're going to work with very wealthy countries that love people, frankly. I know them very well. They love people, but they love Arab people, and they love Muslims, and they love, I think right now they love everybody, and they're immensely wealthy, and they're going to be involved in putting up money, and for them it's a small amount of money. For somebody else it's a large amount of money, but these are the wealthiest countries in the world, and they'll be very much involved in making it as good as possible.
And what's your take now on a two-state solution, sir? Just to follow up on that. What is your view now on a two-state solution for the?
I don't have a view. I'm going to go with what they agreed to.
Mr. President, given that there are some tough provisions for Israel in this agreement, are you at all concerned that Bibi Netanyahu may not continue in his post? He may be deposed.
That Bibi may go a little bit out of whack.
But he may no longer be prime minister.
Look, that's politics. It could be. I don't know. I think he's very popular right now. He's much more popular today than he was 5 days ago. I can tell you. Now, maybe people shouldn't run against him. 5 days ago, it might not have been a bad idea. No, Bibi's this has been a very good thing. I don't think he did it for that reason, okay? But I think just looking as an analyst would look at this, I think Bibi should be very popular right now. Yeah, please.
What will happen if Hamas says that it cannot locate or was not able to find all of the deceased hostages' bodies within the time
Well, we'll
frame?
have to see. I think that's going to be, it's largely been answered. We know where.
So what's the alternative if America doesn't get involved?
The bodies are a bigger problem because some of the bodies are going to be a little bit hard to find. It's a terrible thing to discuss even, but you understand, we're all people, we're grown-ups, we understand life. Nobody can understand this stuff because this could have taken place, but we have the hostages for the most part, and so I don't think it's going to be overly big. The situation with the bodies, they say 28. Some are going to be a little bit hard to find, but we're going to do the best we can. Yeah, please.
If they don't find them within the time frame.
Please.
Thank you, sir. Regarding Jared Kushner's role in the negotiations, can you explain a little bit about why he came on at the last minute? And then in regards to the WIC program that the Vice President mentioned, do you know when the funding that you promised through the tariff revenue will actually go through to communities? Because there's reports that WIC providers are actually starting to close down today.
Well, okay, let me just answer the Jared. So Jared's a very smart guy. He did the Abraham Accords. As some people say, the Abraham, which I love the way that sounds, but he did the Abraham Accords. It was a great thing. 4 big countries joined. If I were president, if the election would have been a correct election, which it wasn't, you'd have every country in there. Maybe even Iran would have been in there, frankly. But you'd have every country in. Now, by the way, that's going to be filled up rather quickly. People want to join the Abraham Accords. And I put Jared there because he's a very smart person, and he knows the region, knows the people, knows a lot of the players. And the combination of him and Steve Witkoff and Marco and Cooper, who is, as I hear, has been fantastic, and others that were involved. JD was very much involved. I mean, we had a very smart group of people working. We had a lot of different players, different countries, and very diverse countries, very different from each other. They had certain things in common, but they had a lot of things, mostly things that were not at all common to their countries. So we had a very smart group of people. These are high IQ people, okay? I talk about how many low IQ people we have in our government. We got some real low ones, but some shockingly low. But these are very high IQ people, and that's what we want. I like high IQ people. Yeah.
Mr. President, thank you. Can I ask you about the China? You're meeting with President Xi. The Chinese have now set to put in new export controls on rare earth minerals, and they've stopped buying soybeans from the U.S. What do you hope to get out of that meeting now with President Xi?
Well, we'll see. I mean, I just heard this a little while ago before we came in, so I haven't been briefed on it. The export. I mean, look, we have the ultimate export. We have import, and we have export. We import from China massive amounts, and maybe we'll have to stop doing that. But I don't know exactly what it is. Neither do you. Neither does anybody. It's a little bit soon. I just heard about it. So Scott and Howard will figure that out, and I'm sure we'll be able to handle it.
Can I ask you about the soybeans? What is the plan to help farmers? Is it direct checks? Is it tax? Have you sorted that out yet?
Well, what happens with soybeans is we're going to see more and more, I think, opening up, and part of the reason that we'll be discussing, he's got things that he wants to discuss with me, and I have things that I want to discuss with him, and one of the things is soybeans. I had a great deal with China where they would buy $50 billion worth of our farm product and manufacturing and other things, but farm product. And it was going along well. Then when the election turned out to be a rigged election and we had the wrong guy get in there, he didn't do anything about it. I used to call up President Xi every 2 weeks, or I'd call up people in China say you got to keep going. You're not buying the amount that you agreed to. And this went on for, ever since we signed the agreement. It was a great agreement. So they used to do 15 billion, and I got it up to 50 billion, 50, and it was great. Then when Biden got in, they just never adhered to the agreement, and nobody in Biden's group, as you can imagine, did anything about it. So it just sat there for 4 years, and they didn't adhere to the agreement. And we, it's hard to go back after 4 years of nobody calling them, but I used to call them every 2 weeks. I'd say, you're a little low, or I appreciate it. Oftentimes I'd say, thank you very much. You are totally adhering to the agreement. But we had an agreement that would buy $50 billion worth of our product, mostly farm product. And remember I said to the farmers, buy larger tractors and more land. And that's exactly what happened. They did well. But we do suffer. I'd like you to discuss that maybe for a second, Brooke. Sure. Very quickly, by the way.
Yes, sir.
But would you just talk about how Biden let us down? Biden, every single thing, every problem the farmer has is because Biden didn't do anything for 4 years. Go ahead.
No, I think that's right. This president has been unequivocal in his support of the farmers. First of all, in term one, we worked on it so hard and opened up markets, but especially this term. But here's what everyone has to understand. The farm economy is in a very uncertain time. But that isn't because of the current trade negotiations, although certainly the China part is part of that. But we inherited a slew of issues. First of all, as the president said, when we left Trump 1, we had an agriculture trade surplus. When we came back for Trump 2, it was a $50 billion ag deficit. That isn't everything, that's just agriculture. The second part is the cost of inputs for our farmers increased on average between 30 and 38%, but that includes fertilizer, it includes fuel, it includes interest rates, it includes labor. All of this came about under Joe Biden, a 47% increase in the cost of labor that now Secretary Chavez-DeRimmer and Noam and I are working on. Fuel is coming down, thank you. Interest rates, thankfully, are coming down to 73% increase in interest rates for our farmers. They couldn't get loans to make sure that they could move forward. So that's all really, really important. And I think we have to realize what the president's commitment is this, that we are moving into an era of rural prosperity, of a golden age for our farmers in rural America. The trade renegotiations and the trade realignment that Jameson and Scott and Howard have led with the president's leadership is unlike anything that's happened in the history of our country. And those that will benefit the most are the original Americans, our farmers and our ranchers. The president has committed, if we need a bridge, he has talked about that to get us from the Biden years to the new Trump era. That's what we're working on every day. We've got to get the government reopened so that we can move forward on that. And once we do, we'll be able to move out a significant program to help our farmers. Long term, we have to change this hamster wheel of government. We've got to ensure that the farmers have the market to sell, and it's a national security issue and onshoring a lot of the food as well.
Okay,
so, sir, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I think that's enough.
Thank you,
The country is doing very well. Thank you very much, everybody.
All right. I guess he's this is done. All right, so I'm going to do something. For those of you who are watching from the backup channel, I'm going to increase the size of the chat box on the screen. We're multi-streaming to the main YouTube channel, which has over 10,000 subscribers. We're also multi-streaming streaming to the backup channel. Okay, so we're multi-streaming to the backup channel, and we have some chatter on the main channel that isn't visible on the backup channel. So I'm wondering if I should just make the chat box bigger. But here's what I'll just do. I'll respond to the chat, and then we can dive in. All right. So let me just should I make myself bigger? I'll just leave this as is. So there are a few things that were said in the chat, and I'm going to respond to the chat. And if you're watching, please feel free to put in your comments and your questions and your observations in the chat. Please engage. And please, before I jump into this, please consider taking the poll, subscribing if you haven't, like the video, share the video, and if you can, support the channel using the link that is seen in the pinned. Sorry about that.
Thing, although the numbers here are
in the pinned chat. Okay, please consider I'll just leave this big. Please consider supporting the channel with the link in the pin chat. All right. So let's see. All right. So let's start with the first comment by Canary King. Alternative. All right. So Canary King said this. He says that he's not excited about bringing Trump in, bringing America into the Middle East peace deal. Without America getting involved, nothing would be done. And that's true. And I asked the question, what was the alternative to America getting involved or Trump getting involved? And Canary King suggested that that the UN or the International Criminal Court would get involved. My response to that is they don't have teeth. Besides that, the United Nations hasn't done its job in decades. The original job description of the UN was to ensure that peace was maintained globally, that strong nations were not allowed to lord it over, that strong, larger nations were not allowed to lord it over smaller nations like we saw in the First World War and in the Second World War. And also, it should also be a place where negotiations could take place to avoid conflict. And we've seen so many wars being started, and it's all because the UN isn't doing its job. And the UN has basically failed in its job description. In my opinion, the UN is obsolete and should be disbanded, or there should be a revision on how the UN operates, or everyone in the UN should be fired and people who actually know what to do should run the UN. That is my opinion. All right. So now I am engaging in the chat. Feel free to leave a comment or chat. It will show up on my dashboard and I will attend to your questions or your statements or comments. So the fear is that that Trump is taking his eye off the tariffs and the economy, which is a big mistake. I will agree that if he's doing that, it's a big mistake. But I don't think he is because of his cabinet. I think he has a strong cabinet. I think he does. But Canary King believes that the cabinet members are lightweight. Trump is president. He can give directions. He can give directives on what he wants to see, but he isn't going to be the one to go in and do all of these things. That's why he has a cabinet. All right. He runs a team of people to carry out his vision. So I think the people he chose are competent enough to still keep the ball rolling where the economy is concerned. That he hasn't been talking about it is simply because the press is chasing a different ball. They're chasing the shutdown ball. They're chasing the ICE enforcement ball. They're chasing all these other things. Earlier in his term this year, we saw them jumping on him where the economy was concerned with tariffs. Now that they've seen that that the world didn't end because he implemented tariffs on certain countries and everything is chugging along nicely, they have conveniently moved on to something else. They claimed that the stock market will tank. It didn't. They claimed that the world economy was going to explode. It didn't. They've moved on conveniently and are pretending like that conversation never happened. So I think his team is doing a good job if the press is not talking about it. Canary King says he loves the way Trump keeps his foot on Biden's neck. It's marketing. It's marketing. Sometimes people think that Donald Trump hates Joe Biden. Maybe he does. But I also think that it is all about reminding people of what they had before and what they currently have. It's all about marketing. He's marketing his current tenure and he's contrasting it with what was. So I think it's a good framing device to consistently bring to the mind of the American people what they experienced before he took office. I think that's the point of that, of him doing that regularly. I don't think Joe Biden lives rent-free in Donald Trump's head. I think what he's basically doing is ensuring that Americans don't forget this is why they voted him. And if you watch Donald Trump carefully, you'll see that every time he's talking, he's giving a speech, he reminds the people that he won the election. And he didn't just win the election, he won it in a landslide. And he keeps putting it out there because when he won the first time in 2016, there were months that went by where Democrats kept claiming that he was illegitimate because he didn't win the popular vote. And they kept putting it out there so that the fact that he was, or the narrative that he was an illegitimate president, kept rooting itself in the brains of the Democrat voting bloc. That has carried forward even till today. There are people today who can't even think straight about a presidency under President Trump because they have been so hypnotized by the Democrat talking points. President Trump is simply, he's simply putting out the facts out there constantly so that they remember that this was a democratically elected president. I think that's what he's doing. That's just me. I'm not in his head, but I think that's what he's doing because personally, I subconsciously get tired of hearing him repeating, I won in a landslide, it wasn't close. I personally feel like you're overdoing it. But when I think about it, I guess I know why he's doing that. Yeah, so all right, so still okay, so okay, so thank God she's done. Trump promised America first. We don't have to solve all the world's problems. That is true, but it's also not so true because here's what happens. America says America first, shuts its eyes at what's going on around the world. And then one day there's a humanitarian crisis like what happened in the Second World War. The world shut its eyes on what was going on with the Jews in Europe. Eventually, they had to take in refugees who were fleeing Europe. A few of them went to present-day Israel, but most of them went to North America. A handful went to England, but Europe wasn't safe, so most of them went to North America. Eventually, North America will have to take in refugees from the world's crises if they don't do anything. The only other thing that you can say is if America is going to be strictly America first, even if the world is burning, America will not take any refugees. At that point, even conservatives within America will be very upset with whoever it is that is taking that posture. Why? Because conservatives are the number one people who preach generosity, and they would like to be a part of something that helps people who are in need. So at first, it's America first, but not America only. I think I heard that from somebody a couple of weeks back. It's America first, not America only. So I think that's a good way to conclude that point. It's not fair for America to do the UN's job and asking us to pay for it. America is already, even if the UN is doing the job, America is still paying for it. America is the largest contributor. Hold on, before I make a false claim, let me go to AI. Where's Grok? So the claim I want to make is that America is already the biggest contributor to the UN. I like Grok because it kind of pulls from conversations. Is the USA the largest contributor to the UN. All right, so my claim is that the US is the largest contributor to the UN. Yes, the United States is the largest financial contributor to the UN. So even if the UN alone is doing the peacekeeping and everything, America is still bankrolling it, essentially, is the largest contributor. Okay, so I don't want to go into the weeds, but the US actually essentially pays for it. So whether the UN is doing it alone or not, the United States will pay for it. But the problem is that the UN is not doing its job. The UN is not doing the job. And so the US has to step in and take care of business. Having global tyrants take hold of the resources in the Middle East, like oil. For example, when it comes to energy, we need to have a very decent, intelligent conversation about Middle East policy. I don't like the global intervention of the United States, the willy-nilly global intervention of the United States. I don't like it. I don't like how it looks. But we need to be pragmatic. So let's talk about it very briefly. Let's say the United States decides that they are not going to intervene in any Middle East conflict. You have Israel, the only democracy in the Middle East, surrounded by Arab countries, with Iran, which is a huge country. People hear about Iran, but Iran is huge. Iran decides that it's going to act out. Iran already is working on nuclear weapons. Iran already has a huge oil reserve, competing with Saudi Arabia. They hate Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is not a democracy. So whoever it is that cuts off the head of the leadership in Saudi Arabia instantly has access to all that oil reserve. They basically run energy on the planet. That's the Middle East. If the United States steps away from providing that pressure and balance in the Middle East, it's going to affect everything that goes on in the world. The Middle East can dictate oil prices at will. They can decide that they can control any other country in Africa. Other countries that are not as wealthy as they are, they can control them. They can infiltrate their governments. They can change policies so that those countries eventually also become Sharia law countries. See where I'm going? There will be uprisings and killings, and there will be a massive refugee crisis coming from those countries, heading where? Europe and North America. They see that instability is untenable. They have to do something. I know that there's a dark part to this policy where certain players in the government bureaucracy can play games and create problems intentionally in these regions. I know. It's a double-edged sword. But consider the alternative. Just consider the alternative. So let me just move on to the next chat. Yeah, so like I said, America is already paying through the UN but the UN is not doing its job. Just to be clear, there are 7 steps to his economic plan. He's only achieved step 1, and he's only 9 months in. But he's done a lot. Can you admit that he's done a lot? Okay. Trump, okay, perhaps, so you're saying perhaps I missed the point. Trump made a promise. He is perceived as breaking that promise. Are you referring to him saying no new wars? He said no new wars. So he said no new wars. And he hasn't started any new wars. He's trying to end wars. Can you articulate what promise you think Trump is breaking? Right? Because perceiving that he's breaking a promise, you need to articulate whether that promise is actually accurate. Please chime in if you're watching. I'm responding to the chat. You can see the chat on the screen. I'm responding. Please chime in if you hear something that I said and you need to kind of add some context to it. contributor is not the same as paying for it. It's okay to contribute. Yeah, but is it okay to contribute to something that isn't working? Is it okay to contribute to something that isn't working? Someone is taking your money. He's not doing the job. And you know that because he's not doing the job, the consequences are still going to slap you in the face. What do you do about that? It's like when I tell my kids to do a chore. I am essentially paying them to do the chore. They sleep under my roof and they eat my food. But I know that if I say to myself, I told them to do the chore and I don't care, they'll bear the consequences. Do you know what? I know that if the consequences falls on them and maybe they get sick as a result of not doing what I asked them to do, clean their room, clean out, brush their teeth, for crying out loud. I know that if I don't follow up with that, eventually I'm still going to pay for the consequences because they don't brush their teeth, they get to go to the dentist, I have to take them, I have to pay for it. So it's almost like America is a parent trying to prevent the bigger problems from happening. Are you telling us, the US, we must be involved so far away from North America? Well, no, you don't have to be. But here's what you have to be prepared to do. If you don't get involved in the world's affairs, be ready to reject refugees from everywhere in the world. You remove refugee policy. You're going to have to rewrite your immigration policy as well. You're going to essentially keep people out of America. You're taking care of yourself and only yourself. But here's where the problem is. The Middle East provides a large portion of American energy. So you're going to lose allies. You're going to start having expensive energy eventually. Then trade partners will see that you're isolating yourself from the world. And then they feel like it is open season to begin to give unfair or unbalanced trade deals to the United States. It's a cascade. Canary King, I will repeat, America first doesn't mean America only. It means America first. And I think he's doing his best to keep that promise. But if something pops off in the Middle East, like a war pops off in the Middle East, America may have to get involved, may have to, because of the scale of the war. I'm just saying. I am not a global policy or a foreign policy expert. I'm just trying to look at this from a common sense perspective. All right. So forgive me if I make a mess of policy and make mistakes about my conclusions, but I'm just trying hard to just look at it from a certain perspective to say, okay, what if this happens? What will happen next? Are you really telling us to go willy-nilly? No, don't. I don't want America to just stumble into any conflict anywhere. All right? Syria was a mistake. Yes. Libya was a mistake. I don't think those countries were a mistake. I think those countries were intentionally destabilized. It wasn't a mistake. All right? Syria and Libya were not done under President Trump. They were not. They were already upside down before he took office. So the fact that Syria fell, in fact, Syria fell before he took office. I believe that's what happened, if I remember correctly. It fell before he took office. Assad took off to Russia, before President Trump took office. The fact that President Trump had to deal with the new leader of Syria is just global foreign policy. He has to be able to talk to someone. Are you really telling us no? Okay, I've read that. if our president is working on American issues, yes, we don't want all these foreign issues so far away because of unproven theories and hypotheses. True. However, we need to look at, like I said, I don't know much about foreign policy, and all I can do is strawman this argument of what if. What would energy look like for the average American if the United States depends only on energy produced and generated within the United States? I don't know what that would look like. The economic experts will let us know, but I don't know what that would look like. There are second-order effects to all of these decisions. The United States stays away from global conflicts. What happens next? Who steps in? China? Russia? Who? Who's big enough to step into those shoes? While Joe Biden was in office, Russia and China tried to gather a coalition of countries to create a new economic order called BRICS. Why? Because America showed weakness. And what would BRICS, and what was the main vision of BRICS? To move global transactions away from the dollar, which would have severely affected the value of the dollar. So once your currency means nothing on the global stage, there goes your economy. Energy, please chat GPT the energy. Okay, you want me to, I need to clarify what you mean for me to chat GPT the energy situation. I want to understand what you're saying. All right, so no, he's perceived as breaking the promise. It happened on his first term also. His first term, well, there's an excuse that he was being sabotaged from within. Let's watch and see. So you agree that adventures on foreign lands is not good for America? No, it's not. There have to be targeted adventures. It has to be intelligent, not starting wars on every front and opening up new bases on every territory. I don't think that is smart. It is it's colonial in nature. Okay, it's like we're not colonialists, but we have American soil here, and we have the ability to exert force on you if we don't like you. So it kind of feels colonial. All right. So I mean, there are conversations to be had. To be honest, I'm just taking a look and giving my own perspective. Conclusion: Trump is making a mistake on these foreign adventures. You're specifically referring to Israel and Gaza. Ukraine is inherited. Israel and Gaza is inherited. And I also need to point out that it's also political in a way. Why is that? The Jewish vote and the evangelical vote will be at stake. Not that they would go and vote Democrat, but it would weaken the momentum of the Make America Great Again, the MAGA movement. I think that would be a poison pill if he attempts to take that posture. I think that's why he's just trying to end the war, so that he's not paying attention to conflicts overseas because he has to, because the evangelicals and the Jews are putting pressure on him to do so. We should also look at it from the political angle. I don't think that President Trump is altruistic all the time. Like, he's like, oh, I'm only doing things because I'm a nice guy. There is the politics of it as well, you know. And I've always said to you guys, I will always do my best to just call it as it is, say it as it is. It's uncomfortable. In fact, there's a new thought process that I've been working on. There's a new thought process, and I'm going to be saying it in the days to come, like whenever I am reviewing the news and politics. And that's this. Politicians use the voting class for their own purposes. All they want you for is for your votes. If they see that you're no longer relevant to pander to, you become their enemy. They use the voting population. So I think it's about time that voters learn how to use the politicians. So instead of being pandered to and used, maybe it's time for you to start using the politician. Use the politician for your own purposes. It's about time you just got up and said, look, as far as I'm concerned, I voted for you. If you don't do what I asked you to do, then bye. Because politicians are very transactional. And I think the voters have to be transactional too. Like I said, I've begun to form that idea, so it's still in its infancy, because the problem with what we're seeing, especially on the left, is that they are so married to the ideology that it has become a mental derangement. They don't know that they're being used. So they use all these dog whistles to control their voting base to act a certain way and to think a certain way. The same could almost be possible on the right, just that the right tends to have a bit more critical thinking attached to it and some conscientiousness. So that kind of creates a kind of buffer, a restraint to keep them from acting out. It's easier for people who lean left, heavily left, extreme left to act out because the person who they voted for told them to, rather than the right-leaning people to do so. That's my thinking. But it's very easy to do so. For example, how many people who support Trump can say what I just said in the last few minutes about him making the decision about Israel because of politics? There might be a few, but they're not much, because everyone wants the guy that they are rooting for to be a champion for them. So as far as Trump is concerned, his shit doesn't stink. That's how people want to talk about the person that they voted for. But let's be truthful. It's transactional. He's a businessman. He's negotiating a deal, hoping to keep his coalition together. Yes, Trump was sabotaged in his first term. The same forces are still at work. He's making a mistake by these foreign adventures. Hopefully this peace deal works out. That's what we're praying. We're being cautiously optimistic. We're cautiously optimistic. We're saying, we hope it works out. Let's watch. And then keep your eyes on the players, the different players involved. Okay, now the truth is coming out. We shouldn't be naive. Okay, we shouldn't be naive. I think the first step towards being able to look at things in a balanced way is to not think in camps. Don't think in camps. I'm Republican, I'm Democrat. And that's why I've said for a long time, I am non-partisan. That means I'm not wearing the shirt of a Republican or the shirt of a Democrat. I need to look at both sides, and I need to call out both sides when I see something wrong. I did a video last night and I published it. And one of the things that I pointed out was, I think that to an extent, the confrontations that we see on Capitol Hill are an act. That's what I think. I don't think we have true believers. Maybe Donald Trump is a true believer, maybe. Maybe a couple of people in his cabinet are true believers, maybe. But the career politicians on Capitol Hill are not true believers. They negotiate deals in Capitol Hill, and the people are currency. The voters are currency. The fact that you voted for them gives them currency. AOC has currency because of the people who vote for her. And that's why she's a threat to Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, Nancy Pelosi. She's a threat because of her voter base. She appeals to the younger generation. They are rabidly behind her. She talks to them regularly during her live streams. She has an active followership. These guys are older. They grew up in the years where you could only talk to your voting base on the 9 o'clock news or during the news cycle or in the newspaper. That's the only time they only know how to act on those platforms. They don't know how to use social media to connect directly with their voter base. They are terrified of AOC. AOC is a threat to them. The government shutdown, according to Senator John Kennedy, has been engineered largely by AOC and the socialist bloc of the Democrat Party. AOC said, if you want the government shutdown to end, come see me. So I think AOC has a stronger voting base than Hakeem Jeffries. I think she does. Hakeem Jeffries, look, everyone has a strong voter base to get into office on Capitol Hill, but some are stronger than others. Some are stronger than others. And I think AOC has a very strong voter base. Now, let me tell you something that I've learned. I don't like that I saw this. I'm talking about personally now. I don't like that I saw this, about creating content, but it's something that I found that is true. When I engage in these conversations during the live stream, okay, the live streams are tend to be very technical, tend to be very deep because we're having a very in-depth back and forth. There are conversations that I know we can have, and we could sit here and talk for hours on end. We could be here for 12 hours talking about these ideas. But the average online person can't cope with those ideas. So when I create those short 5-minute, 10-minute videos, I try to be as baseline as possible. I try to be as simple. I don't use it. There was a word that crossed my mind, but I won't use that. I try to be as simple as 6th grade speaking level or reading level as possible in those videos. Sometimes I let myself go and I get a bit technical. The videos that do very well on YouTube are the very basic videos that, just tell you the simplest answer. You see that person there, he's bad. Yay. Your videos will go viral. You see that person there, he's good. Everyone who likes him, yay, they subscribe to your channel. Those are the kinds of videos that do well on YouTube. But when you come to a technical conversation, when it comes to a technical conversation where I am expressing my thoughts and tell you the lines, like there are lines between the lines, they don't do very well. Right now on this stream, there's only less than a handful of us. Right now, it's just me and you, Canary King, having this conversation. We're having this conversation. And you know what? Maybe what we'll do is you and I have a conversation, everybody else just watches. Because deep conversations aren't so popular on YouTube. There's an opportunity for that to happen. but it's not so popular. So I found that out, and I don't like that I found it out, because it tries to say that people online are not intelligent. And that is what the likes of AOC have taken advantage of. They pander to people who don't go deep enough. They're surface level thinkers. They just say it's a Democrat policy, people like it, I'm all for it. They don't go deeper to look under the covers. AOC is a star, I agree. I may not like that she is, but she is. And let me tell you something. People, and I used to be one of them. I used to think that AOC was stupid. I used to actually think so. And if I had the opportunity, I could say so, but not anymore. She's been able to read the room. She's been able to look at the platform, and she knows her base. She knows her base. Her base doesn't think deeply about stuff. So all she does is she panders to the people who don't want to think beyond, this is Democrat and I like it. That's Trump and I hate him. The same goes for MSNBC or TDSBC. They are the crowd they pander to a crowd that simply believes Trump bad, let's go. That's all they think. So they are very intelligent. They aren't stupid people. They aren't foolish. And I don't think I should call them evil people. They just know the crowd that they are pandering to. And they've learned how to pander to that crowd very well. She has the charisma to electrify her base. Yes, Hakeem Jeffries has a crowd, but his crowd, I think they want him to be the next Barack Obama. I think that's the thing. They want that magic back. I think that's the crowd that's following Hakeem Jeffries. They want that Obama magic back, the Obama of the early 2000s. They want that magic back, but I don't think they're going to get it, because Hakeem Jeffries isn't as impressive as Obama then. And Obama basically spoiled it for him. He did. I noticed your Trump reaction videos do very well. I'll tell you why I think they did very well, because I didn't say much. I noticed that they did well because I didn't say much. The first Trump video that monetized my channel was the one he did, the 1995 interview with Roger Ailes. That one currently is at 800,000 views. It took off, exposed my channel. Then I made the second video, the 1980 interview. In fact, I was going to play that interview and react to it after the cabinet meeting. I have it queued up here. And if you watch that video, one thing that you're going to see is I let Trump talk all through. I let the interview play all the way through, and then I did my reaction and review at the end, and it was about 1 minute or less. And I watched the analytics. People watched until they saw my face and then they clicked away. And at that point, I had a choice to make. I either play the YouTube game and only, I have a choice to make, and I still have that choice today. I could decide that I basically just I front load the video of a popular person. Okay, you want me to play the Trump video? So which of the Trump videos do you want me to play? The 1995 one with Roger Ailes or the 1980 one? All right. So I could play the YouTube game and play towards the algorithm, or I show people who I am and what I think and get you to meet me. And maybe you might like me and subscribe. You know, so that's the game that YouTube plays, and I didn't want to play that game. And so my channel took off, and then it stayed at 10,000 subscribers for a while because I didn't want to play that game. Let's remember to give the viewers what they want. There's a limited number of Trump videos out there. So that was the other problem that I was facing. Should I spend my time looking for Trump historical? And I have a bunch of them. I have a whole folder full of Trump videos. But the question is, are those videos necessary? I am planning to react to a Reagan video. There's a Reagan video that I have. I'm supposed to react to it as well. You want me to play the game? All right. All right, so we're going to play the Trump video. I'm going to play it. Okay, I'm going to play it. One has over 1.7 million views, and that's the one that we're going to play. We're going to play that one. Deep isn't for this platform. Yep. And you know what? I'm sad. I honestly want deep conversations, but I'm sad that the platform doesn't encourage deep conversations. Oh, my daughter is back from school. Zoe, come on, give me a hug. How was school?
Good.
It was good? All right. I'm still live. I'll talk to you when I'm done, okay?
So I'm online.
Huh?
So I'm online.
Yes, you are. Can you shut the door for me? Yeah. All right. So, keep searching, get 200 videos, milk it as long as you can go. Just an opinion. I'll be on mute and observe. Don't be sad. You can have deep conversations. I know. You can have deep conversations weekly. Okay. Yeah. So I really want to do live streams every day. Yeah, I do. I want to keep the live streams going. Let me get the video up. Like I have a bunch of videos that I want to react to, but there's one I'm looking at right now on the history of the Nazi brown shirts. Yeah, so this is the video. All right, so
most people understand that in order to make progress, you have to do things.
All right, so I would say that this video was this was an accidental success. I'll play it. Let's grow the channel to 100,000. My eyes are on 1 million. To be honest with you, my eyes are on 1 million. 1 million subscribers. I'm currently multi-streaming even to Rumble, but I want the channel to rise to 1 million subscribers. So let's play this video and then we'll react to it. Almost 2 million views, almost.
Most people understand that in order to make progress, you have to do things which aren't necessarily going to make you the most popular boy on the block. And that's what we did. In that case, we had a decision to make, and we had to make a decision.
Is that something you learned all by yourself, or was it instilled in you by your father or your grandparents or anyone?
I think maybe it's something that was instilled, and maybe it's something that you've learned through a little bit of trial and error over the years. I think this country maybe is a good example. I just don't feel the country is going forward in the proper direction. We could have made quick decisions, and we would have been a lot better off than the way we've been sitting around over the last couple of years and just watching everybody else do everything, and we just sit back and take everybody's abuse. It's a very sad situation that somebody isn't there making the decisions and pushing the right and proper, I don't want to use the word buttons, frankly, but pushing the right levers so that we can go out and do things as we're supposed to be doing them.
You are a mover, you are a doer. If you could make America perfect, how would you do it?
Well, I think that America is a country that has tremendous, tremendous potential. I think that much like the mind, I think that America is using very, very little of its potential. I feel that this country with the proper leadership can go on to become what it once was.
All right, so a lot of people in the comment section have claimed that his statement is about taking America back to segregation days, because they will always push the racist angle whenever it comes to Trump. But I don't believe that Donald Trump is pushing in that direction. And it is so simplistic for people to just go there and say, him wanting America to go back to a certain place where America was exuding greatness automatically means take it back to slavery or take it back to the old days. You know, so it's hard to see those comments and actually, you know, not feel a certain kind of way. Because I don't think there's anything in his comments that reveals that. The entire interview is quite cordial and very, very straightforward. It's really about American productivity, American potential, American greatness. And his gripe was always about the politicians making the wrong decisions.
And I hope, and certainly hope, that it does go on to be what it should be.
What should it be?
Well, it should really be a country that gets the respect of other countries.
Is respect the most important thing in your opinion?
Well, respect can lead to other things. When you get the respect of the other countries, then the other countries tend to do a little bit as you do, and you can create good attitudes.
So that's basically the peace through strength doctrine. You know, when he says this, all I hear is peace through strength.
The Iranian situation is a case in point. That they hold our hostages is just absolutely and totally ridiculous. That this country sits back and allows a country such as Iran to hold our hostages, to my way of thinking, is a horror. And I don't think they'd do it with other countries. I honestly don't think they'd do it with other countries.
Obviously, you're advocating that we should have gone in there with troops, etc., and brought our boys out.
I absolutely feel that, yes. I don't think there's any question, and there's no question in my mind. I think right now would be an oil-rich nation, and I believe that we should have done it, and I'm very disappointed that we didn't do it, and I don't think anybody would have held us in abeyance. I don't think anybody would have been angry with us. And we had every right to do it at the time. I think we've lost the opportunity.
Donald, would you have wanted to be one of those men to have gone to Iran, and taken those fellows out?
No, I wouldn't have wanted to be, but I would have done it.
Would you?
So he's being very frank here. He wouldn't have wanted to be one of those going to war, but he would have done it. You know, so like that. And I think that's a great attitude, and I think he's also expressed that even when he talked about the bombing of the Iranian nuclear facility. He didn't want to do it, but they just had to, because they had to ensure that Iran's nuclear program was stopped.
Absolutely.
Or at least paused.
If I were the age, if I were in the military.
There were a lot of those fellas who went for that aborted coup who were 34 years old and older. They were your age.
That's right.
If you were called upon, would you? I know it's easy to say, yes, of course I would go.
Okay, so the people who were caught on the beach were career military operatives. They were career military operatives. There's a difference between someone who runs a business, who isn't a career military person, and someone who has been in the military all their life, loves the military, loves covert operations, and grows up through the ranks and goes for an operation at the age of 34.
But if the phone rang right now and someone from the Selective Service had said, Donald, we're taking every young man 34 years of age, we're sending him to war, would you go to war?
No, I don't see a war. You see, the war this is not a Vietnam situation, fortunately. The war, in fact, with Iraq.
There is a war waging
yes.
right now.
Oh, yes, there is a war, and it's a war where nobody has any tanks, has any guns. It's a war where everyone's standing around. That would have been the easiest victory we would have ever won, in my opinion.
When I look at television, I see men being shot up, legs being blown off.
You're talking about two non-existent armies. I mean, Iran has an army composed of American equipment without parts and without anything else, and Iraq has a very weak army, and they're just really fighting each other. I mean, it's almost hand-to-hand combat. If you see now, they've run out. It's a sad situation, Rona, but it's a situation which ultimately is going to get much worse. That little sparkle of war, that little sparkle is going to lead, in my opinion, to a much greater conflict, and I think that's very unfortunate. And I think a lot of it has to do with this country and the fact that this country is not more involved in terms of setting policy in that area.
Do you think perhaps that the oil industry is responsible for this, as the late Shah once implied?
Well, I wouldn't want to criticize the oil industry because I wouldn't know enough about it, but I can tell you that I think this country is responsible for that war by its own weaknesses. I don't think you'd have this war if they, again using the other word, if we were respected, properly respected as a country and as a people and as a nation. I don't think that you would have the war going on right now between Iran and Iraq. I don't think that Iran would have our hostages for 10 minutes. If they respected this country, I don't believe they would have our hostages for 10 minutes.
Wow, it's amazing to... All right, so great old interview, an oldie but a goodie. I've always, like, this segment of the interview was very instructive about Donald Trump's position on foreign policy. And I've always said one of the things that I've enjoyed watching Donald Trump's rise in politics is that everything that he has always said, he's still saying those things today. And that's because I believe that Donald Trump is a true believer. He believes the things that he talks about. He believes he has conviction that what he's doing is the right thing. I can't say the same for Democrats, for the Democrats, at least the people in Congress that we've seen, like the Nancy Pelosi's, Chuck Schumer's. They change their policy positions when it is convenient. And the excuse that I've gotten when it comes to this video, when I say, look, Donald Trump has had the same convictions for decades, and he hasn't changed. One of the pushbacks is, well, that means that he's refused to evolve. I don't think so. It's really about convictions. If there's a way the world works, then you need to recognize that and act accordingly. The hostage situation was unbelievable. It was crazy that first off, there was a revolution. Second off, it was also believed that the US and the UK were responsible for opening for the opportunity that the Ayatollah had to take over Iran, because the Shah wanted to renegotiate the deal, the oil deal that they had with Iran and with the United States and England. So why would the Ayatollah and his lackeys take American hostages? I believe it was because they believed, like Donald Trump said, that America was weak. Maybe they believed that by holding on to the hostages, there were some concessions that America would make. Maybe they believed that they would frighten America enough that they would not depose the Ayatollah if they wanted to. Maybe I don't know what they were thinking. Who knows what they were thinking? But it was unbelievable. It was equally unbelievable that Jimmy Carter couldn't get the hostages out. But Ronald Reagan, in one of his speeches, said that the hostages would be released before he took office. Else, all hell will break loose on Iran. I believe he said something close to that. And they released the hostages before he took office. So, and I think people on the global stage know when they're dealing with someone who keeps his promises. Because Reagan, should I play the Reagan video that I had planned to react to? Reagan was the governor of California. And under his governorship, he was able to institute a bunch of reforms that people said could not be done. He reduced the number of people who were on welfare, increased the welfare checks to people who deserved it, left the state with more money than he met, and did not grow the government. He didn't grow the number of employees within the government. Not one extra employee within the government while he was in office. And I think he was governor for 8 years. So it's amazing that things like that send a signal to people around the world that this person does what he says he will do. And when they listen to Ronald Reagan talk, make promises to the state of California and keep those promises, they know that when this guy takes office and he says to you, before I take office, you better release our hostages or else. They know that or else means or else. I think that's important. I think that's important. Yep. 1.7 million views. That was fun. So I might be doing a reaction to this video, or I might be doing a watch party with you guys with this video. Let me show you this. Let me just put it up on the screen. All right. I hope it doesn't play. Yeah, so the title,
Hitler's rise to power.
The title of this video, who were the essay, the Stormer, is German, just the brown shirts. Who were the brown shirts? I've said it several times that the brown shirts are the equivalent of Antifa. They are the equivalent of Antifa. So I'm thinking that maybe someday I'll do a reaction to this video, and we will see if my observations are correct. All right, so this is 3:14. I will need to head out to get my child from daycare very soon. But I have a question. So if you're still watching, let me know. Now, I've observed that there's a better chance that we will get more activity if the live stream happens at 5 o'clock my time, 5 o'clock ADT, than if I have the live stream at 12 noon ADT. So I'm wondering if we should move the live stream to 5 p.m. ADT to have more engagement. And I'll be honest, it's encouraging for me when there's more engagement and when there's more people on the live stream. The live stream does well because of the energy of the group, and we can have real conversations because more people are contributing to the event. All right, it's just a thought. All right, I'm just going to play this in the background right? It's just a thought. Should we have a live stream at noon or a live stream at 5 p.m.? All right. So I want to have a very meaningful conversation each time I have the live stream. Like the live streams have to make sense. The work I'm doing on YouTube has to make sense. So that's why I'm leaving a call to action on every video, because now this is basically this is my 9 to 5, for the foreseeable future. I can't do anything else right now. A few things are going on with the immigration process, so I can't work a 9 to 5. So when I do videos talking about how I'm in support of immigration policy and immigration policy is impacting me, I don't change my tune and start saying that I'm against it. So that is how people should behave. People should say what they think and act accordingly. They shouldn't change their views simply because circumstances have changed. And for me, circumstances changed, and I can't work. This is my 9 to 5 now. So I want to be able to run the live streams in a way that is profitable. If I go live, there's a chance that a lot of people show up. We can have a decent conversation. If I'm live for 1 hour, it's a rich 1 hour, and we can have meaningful conversations. So that's really what I'm trying to. So let me know in the chat. Are you fine with me going live at 5 p.m. ADT? That's 4 p.m. Eastern, EST, so that we can have a more we can have a better experience with everyone else. Because yesterday when we went live, there were times when we had a bunch of people on. The engagement was solid. It was fun. And I want to continue having that kind of experience. It's good for the channel. It's good for my morale. It's good for my motivation to keep doing this. So I just want to be honest with you. Canary King and I had a very open conversation. Let me open up the, so we had a very open conversation around videos and the type of videos that get eyeballs. And I'm being very honest. I don't want to be the channel that throws out fodder to my audience. I want to provide value. But in order to do that and do the work, I need to be motivated to do the work, to know that there are people out there who will join the live stream, and I need to deliver something valuable to them. So we're going to, I don't think doing the 12 noon live stream works if we don't have a sizable number of people staying on concurrently during the live stream. But that would mean that I would have to do reviews on live events like today after the fact if they're actually going live. I want to build up the following before I can do some of these ad hoc live streams, spontaneous live streams. All right. So we're live on the Crossroads main channel, the Crossroads backup channel, Rumble, and Twitch. So that's what we're going to be doing, I guess. So I'll basically be keeping you guys posted, but it's very likely that possibly starting tomorrow, we're going to start streaming at 5 o'clock. So we will stream at 5 for roughly an hour. If the conversation takes longer, then we will have a longer conversation. So this live stream has run for 3 hours and 33 minutes. All right, so thank you guys. Thank you, Canary King, for the engagement. Thank you for the conversation. As always, a very spirited conversation with you. We might do a live stream where we look at this video. I'm going to look at the video privately, and then maybe we'll watch it together. We'll do a watch party and look at the video. It's very important because I've made some observations, and I want to validate or verify those observations with videos that look at history. What happened in history, and what can we learn from what happened in history? So I would love to be able to do that, but then again, we will have those conversations in the days to come. Well, thank you for watching, guys. Thank you for hanging around. I'll be heading out to get my son from daycare. Until next time, God bless you, and I'll see you on the next one.